Folks, the biggest tournament of the year is back. 2023 Speed Chess Championship. It's day 2 of qualifier number 2, the main event. We've got 8 players fighting for 2 spots to get themselves to the 2023 Speed Chess Championship, brought to you by chess.com and Coinbase. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the stream. The games are just about to get underway shortly here. We've got a number of matches that we're going to be spectating. It's going to be a double elimination format. A lot of blitz and bullet today on the line. Let's go to the bracket. I can show you guys right now who is playing in today's event. All right, now first up in the winner's bracket, we have 4 players seeded already into the semifinals. These were the top 4 finishers from yesterday's qualifier Swiss. Alexei Sorana, Eduardo Torrezaga, Dmitry Andreikin, and Alexander Shamanov, all very strong grandmasters. These 4 will be fighting for 1 spot in the winner's bracket. The losers of these first 2 matches and then the next match in the final will go down to the loser's bracket, where they will face the winners of the matches between Aram Hakobian, David Pravian, Ranak Sadwani, and Kirill Shevchenko. So there's 2 spots here up for grabs, 1 in the winner's bracket and 1 in the loser's bracket, as these players battle it out to knock each other out in blitz and bullet. So it's going to be a really, really exciting day. Let's go back to the main view where you guys can see the format for each of these matches. These are going to be 6-game matches, 2 games of 5+1, 2 games of 3+1, 2 games of 1+1. 3.5 points wins the match. If the match is tied after 6 games, 3-3, then the players are going to go to Armageddon, and that's going to be really exciting if that happens, as only 1 player can emerge from each match. So the games are just about to get started, and I'm very much looking forward to see who is going to advance in this bracket. You guys can see the matchups here. We have Sorana versus Torrezaga in the first round, Andreikin versus Shamanov. And in the loser's bracket, Hakobian against Pravian and Sadwani against Shevchenko. All very, very strong players, very familiar to anyone watching Title Tuesdays or any of these online events. These players are often near the top and absolutely crushing the rest of the field. All right, we should be getting games pretty soon here. Let me find the chat. We are streaming both to chess.com and Chess Dojo Live. Shout out to everyone in both chats. Hope your Thursday is going well. And let me know who you're rooting for, who you expect to win in these matches. Honestly, these are all, for me, kind of complete toss-ups. I'll put it that way. Complete toss-ups. It's going to be 6 games, 2 games 5+1, 2 games 3+1, 2 games 1+1. So in order to advance, you're going to have to show some skill in all 3 time controls. And let's see, where's the Chess Dojo Live chat at? Hopefully we got some dojoers in. Nice, nice. Good to see you all. Okay, I'm being told the games should be starting soon. Let's make sure we're following all the players. And yeah, we should be getting games underway. 10 seconds to games. All right, folks, very exciting. Here we go. Day 2 Qualifier 2 is starting, and we've got David Pravian against Aram Hakobian. So these two are in the losers bracket. Now the way this works is if you're in the losers bracket, that means you've got one life, right? You get knocked out, you lose a match, you're out of the competition. So they are starting off with a 5+1 game, the first of two, before moving on to Faster Blitz and then Bullet. And Pravian comes out with the Catalan. Very, very common opening. You often see this one at all levels and all time controls. Actually, not all levels. Let me correct that. Higher levels, but all time controls at the higher levels. And here White's putting the bishop on g2. It's going to be exerting the pressure along the long diagonal for the rest of the game. But the drawback is that it does give Black the opportunity to try to snag a pawn and force White to spend a lot of time recapturing it, possibly with the queen. So these two are battling it out in this opening here. It feels like both players are kind of familiar with what they're doing. Aram has played this a5 followed by dc4 line, which I feel like is quite dynamic. Now, the big question here for Black is always what's going to happen with this light squared bishop. If the bishop can get to b7, generally Black is supposed to be totally fine in this kind of situation. But if it's not able to develop, if White is somehow able to just pile up on this diagonal, then yeah, Black is often experiencing issues here. So we'll see how Pravian handles this one. I believe he's a pretty experienced Catalan player. Plays a lot of these types of positions, because you can also go g3, bishop g2, and fianchetto the bishop against many openings, not just, let's say, Queen's Gambit declined. And oh, here we go, big moment, b6. And this is where White needs to stop and think and see if they have any kind of discoveries. Goes for knight e5. And now how is Black going to deal with this one? Because rook a7, knight c6, you hang the exchange. So knight d5, covering the diagonal with the knight. Now White takes on c4. And he's going to be looking to build up pressure now with the rooks next. Rook d1, rook c1. But Black gets bishop b7 in, and seems like Black could be all right. Some trades might be happening pretty soon as well. Bishop a6. Okay, that's another way to develop the bishop, just putting some pressure on the knight on c4. Now, these two are very evenly matched in terms of the rating. 29.93 for Pravian versus 30.25 for Aram. I mean, these 3,000 ratings, honestly, they've gotten a little bit out of control, folks. Okay, knight takes e5. Now we'll see how White recaptures. I think the natural way, yeah, would be to take with the knight to reintroduce this knight c6 idea. Now White is also threatening a potential e4, which could win the knight on d5, but rook c8, introducing a bigger threat in the position. Bishop takes f2 check. White is definitely going to be sidestepping this one, either queen b3, queen b1. Let's see, queen a4, I guess, also possible. Queen d2. Now, I wasn't expecting in this one. Eval Bar doesn't like this move either. I mean, it gives up the pin along the d file. Now Black could even take on f4, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't see what's so special about that for White. Bishop b4, probably even stronger, actually just hitting the queen. Where's this queen going? It doesn't have a lot of squares. Queen d4. Minimum Black can play bishop c5 and repeat, but oh, bishop takes e2. Pawn is just hanging. He just snags a pawn. Now bishop takes d5, but Black is always going to have this exchange to take in the future. So Aram's a little bit down on time, about a minute, but his position looks really good. I mean, I think he's about to win a full exchange. Now takes. Yeah, White's rooks are still hanging, and Black has managed to go into the endgame. Okay, knight d7, trying to get the exchange back. And let's see if he takes the rook, or just, I feel like you can just move the rook as well. You got to deal with knight takes b6, but the problem for White is that it's very difficult to get out of this fork. Okay, he decides to just take on d1. And, oh, that was an interesting moment. If knight takes f8, then I believe Black goes bishop g4 to trap the knight and go up a piece. So that's why White just recaptured rather than trying to keep the material even. But now Black gets the exchange. Knight takes b6, a rook comes in with a rook to c2. this makes a lot of sense. Black's second rook can invade here soon as well. And yeah, this looks very, very good for Hakobian for this first game. Let's see if we can get some move sounds. All right, move sounds. Move sounds should be live. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see if we get some move sounds. There we go. Beautiful. All right. The bishop e3. And now, yeah, Black's rook is just collecting. Feels like a completely winning endgame for Black. It's just a matter of technique. You have to find the way to break through. Let's see how he's going to manage. And okay, we have a bunch of games going on in the other matches, so let's jump around a bit. I think Hakobian is going to be winning this one. Let's go to the other game in the losers bracket, because these are elimination matches. We've got Kirill Shevchenko against Ronak Sadwani, and I'm like, what is this? Is this their second game? What? How many moves have they made? 14 moves. This is a 5-minute game. They're already down to playing blitz, essentially. Let's just review the opening. So this was in English, and Ronak goes for actually pretty aggressive setup, d6 and f5. But d4, Shevchenko reacting, I would say, man, every move in this opening is a surprise, to be honest. Knight d2, c6, knight f1, bishop f6, d5, knight e7, and bishop f4, g5, forcing the bishop back. Now c5, closing the position, f4. Wow. Yeah, no wonder these players have already spent a bunch of time. This game has been absolutely chaotic so far. And now knight to d2, Black to play in this position. Basically, we got a bullet game on our hands. 1 second increment. Queen e7, hitting the bishop on e3. That's an unpleasant move. How does White deal with this one? You can go something like queen to e2. But you always need to watch out for f4 shots. The bishop on h3 is hanging. This knight wants to get in with knight to e5. There's knight b4 potential as well, targeting the c2 square. So this is looking very, very tricky for Shevchenko. I don't know how he's going to get out of this one. King f2, yeah, you run into f4 immediately, which looks just completely losing, actually, because Black is going to be taking this one with check. So queen e2 played, f4 anyway. Now White could take on c8, and then there's some real complications with f takes e3 here, hitting the knight on d2 with check. Ooh, very hard to say what's going on at first glance. So takes fe3, bishop drops back to e6. Shevchenko sacrificing a full piece in order to keep Black's king in the center. This actually could be incredibly dangerous for Black within just a couple moves, because if you take on d2, White's going to take with the king and then bring the rooks to the e-file. Eventually the queen goes somewhere, and Black is going to have big problems with the king on e8. So Ronak takes on c3. It looks like he's trying to simplify the position and force White to take back before taking on d2. Interestingly, Shevchenko decides to take the pawn on e3. So he's still giving up a piece, but in just kind of a different fashion. Now the bishop has to move. But you have a lot of moves here for Black. You have bishop d4. You can take on b2. You can just trade off one of White's attackers. But again, the issue is bishop takes d2, king takes d2, and then the rook comes in and it starts to feel a little uncomfortable for Black. So he takes on b2, grabs another pawn, rook to b1, and now bishop to d4. Sadwani, a little materialistic on that one. I'm not sure exactly why he needed to take this pawn and give White a free tempo to possibly get the rook in, but he seems confident he can hold this. Eval bar seems to be on Black's side as well. Now king d8, oh, very nice defensive move. He's going to use the king to defend the b pawn and also connect the rooks. And Black is up a full piece here, so if White isn't able to generate threats within a few moves, then White's just going to be completely lost. Less than 30 seconds now for Shevchenko. So rook e1, just trying to get the pieces in. I imagine queen was going to move. No, knight b3. giving black the chance to take on e6. I guess he wants d takes e6, opening up the queen and looking for some attacking avenues here, but don't think it's going to be enough for black. Queen f6, a4. Now maybe rook to e8 looks logical, just bringing another piece in. Rook f8, going after that f3 pawn. If white allows a queen trade, it's over. Knight d2, maybe bishop c3. Yeah, take off the knight on d2, and then black can come in and collect on f3. Look out for this knight maybe coming to e5. Should be good for black, but it's going to be a wild scramble. This game is far from over. Bishop to g4, defending f3. That seems like the best white can do. Takes, knight e5. Black now has 2 horses for an elephant, so big advantage for black. Okay, takes on g4. Now that's just a full extra knight in the position. Oh, and Ronak gets the queens off the board. That is, I think, just going to seal the deal here. He has plenty of time on the clock. Rook can come into e8, rook can come into f2. Should be just a completely winning endgame for black. Now the knight can also get into the game with knight a6, knight c5. That would seem pretty strong to me. And yeah, this one I think is just over. Looks like Sadwani should take the first game. Let's just watch them play it out. I feel like we're just a couple moves away from the resignation here. Rook e8 check. 2 seconds for Shevchenko. He's still fighting, and Ronak backed up, and look at this, knight a8. Just trying to get that knight back into the game. As soon as this knight starts affecting the situation, the game is just going to be over. But until that happens, Ronak still with a little bit of work to do. And finally, the knight appears. Rook f7 check. Hold on. He just lost the knight. He just lost the horse. And now we have a rook endgame. Shevchenko managed to swindle his way into a very tricky and quite drawish, frankly, rook endgame. Now still white, 1 extra pawn for Ronak. He's desperately scrambling, figure out how to way to keep the pawn alive. Now at least he gets a6, and yeah, still very good winning chances for black, but also nice drawing chances as well, just because of the reduced material. And look at this, he's inching his king up. White's rook just not letting black advance off of the a file, but black can still make progress. And this rook on h3 is quite brilliant, just defending the pawn on h6, not giving white any counterplay. So it looks like Ronak, after all that, is going to be able to convert this one. Rook h2, rook b2 now, and that should be the end of it. Oh, rook b6, very nice move. Very nice move, stopping white's king from taking on h6. He still had a chance. He could have defended the pawn on the 5th rank as well. But now rook b1, that should do it. Shevchenko, though, putting up very stubborn defense, just not going down without a fight. But yeah, that's gonna do it for game 1. So Ronak takes the first game, and they immediately have jumped into their second game. Let's see. Looks like in that first round, Andreikin managed to defeat Shamanov. We're gonna update you guys with the bracket in just a sec. Looks like, yeah, all the games from the first round ended. Now we're on to game 2. So Aram Hakobian, he did win that first game with black. We were watching that one where he had the extra exchange. And now he needs to get to 3.5 points out of 6 in order to win this match and advance to the next stage of the bracket. So he's off to a good start in this game. Looking very, very good for Hakobian. Let's just go back and see what happened here. This was a Grunfeld. Pravian is a big Grunfeld specialist, and I believe Hakobian plays a bit of a Grunfeld himself, if I'm not mistaken. So he goes for this cheeky line, queen a4 check, knight d7. Now queen drops back to a3. It feels very artificial, but the idea is that white is just kind of stopping black from playing c5. And yeah, but black strikes with e5 now, so nothing in this opening is free. Bishop f6, takes, bishop d3. And looks like we had a pretty normal opening, but somewhere black ended up going wrong. And oh, e6. What a disgusting move by Aram Hakobian. Look at that, e6. If you take with the queen, it'd be rook e1, and you lose Lose the rook on e8. So fe6, black is forced to weaken the structure. And now it's just, yeah, tough position for black to play. Rook comes into c7, queen c4 check, knight came into g5, now f4, and oh, this is just Jacobian's position right now. E takes f4. He is a true-born attacker. Loves throwing his pieces at the enemy king. And yeah, here he's getting his chance. I mean, all these pieces are just absolutely inching to get closer to the enemy monarch. But 2 minutes on the clock. You can see he's burning a lot of time because he's looking for some vicious knockout. So queen takes d4 check. Now black has several options here. If you move the king, though, that's going to run into bishop c4. So that seems like a big problem. King h6 feels quite scary as well. So I would be expecting either queen e5 or queen f6. But then there's rook takes d7 check in the position. So this is a problem for black. This is a big problem. If you block with the queen, you're just losing 2 pieces for the rook. And that should be quite good for white. It's a very tough moment for Pravian here. I don't know how he's going to hold this one. So queen e5. Now white should be able to take on d7. I think he's calculating takes, queen takes, rook to e7. And then what to do in that final position. A different solution. He just goes for the endgame. He's down a pawn, but white still has a ton of play here. Very interesting. And he's still completely winning. Now he can take on h7. You can go knight e4 check. This one is hanging. Wow, very strong conversion here by Jacobian. And what can black do now? So king e5. I think taking here, rook e4 check, king d6. Wow. And then black can at least take the rook on c7. So let's see. I think we have something else. Oh, he did go for this. Takes. And just bishop takes g6. And we're getting this endgame where, okay, white's pawns on the king side are super strong. Black's pawns on the queen side also can do something, but that a pawn is going to at least hold them back enough, right? Bishop can come to f7 and stop any kind of passed pawn creation. And still, though, there's this idea a4, b4, and then b3 takes a3. So black still has counterplay given enough time, but white's h-pawn super fast here. Okay, don't push now. Bishop would be hanging, so bishop drops back to f5. And now white is still going to need time here to get the h-pawn rolling. So b4. Now maybe time for the second pawn to advance. g4, g5. Should be winning for white, but it's not easy. It's not easy. Black's pawns are just coming. You know, this is one of those positions where you kind of lose from both sides sometimes because they're so tricky. But knight f8 is nice. Knight f8 is attempting to simplify and possibly just win material on the spot. If knight takes f8, white takes this one with check and then comes back and takes the other piece. So what does black do here? This is very tough now. Maybe rook d6. Then rook e7 possibly. White's going to pin the knight up and start pushing. h6, h7. 1 minute for Pravian. This is not easy. Not easy at all. So rook f6, now g4. He can take on f8, but then bishop takes d7. What's going on here? Takes, bishop takes g4. And then I think the key move would be bishop g6, trying to advance the pawn. But no, black would have a draw here. And looks like Pravian has managed to save it. Because on h6, you have bishop f5, so bishop g6. But now black can just give up the bishop. and force the trade of white's last pawn. Of course, the king is going to have to get in. But Evalbar is calling it a draw. I'm inclined to believe it. He normally knows these things pretty well. But yeah, you got to take. And now either the king comes in or a4. Yeah, now it's tricky. But king should definitely enter. a4, b3. White's king is immediately rushing to try and stop, and it's just going to be a matter of tempos here. And oh, this is very smart. This is very smart by Pravin. He's bringing the king to a3, and then he's got a4, b3, and there's literally nothing white can do to stop it. So 3,000 level play here by Pravin to save it with king a3, a4, b3. Very, very nice. And he should be holding this game. He's still going to be down a point, but at least saving this game is going to be the first step to bouncing back in the match. All right, let's just watch them play it out. a4, and yeah, nothing white can really do. You can give up the bishop here, but then black just gets king b4, and we've got a trivially drawn king and pawn endgame. Okay, let's go to the other match in the losers division. Losers bracket. We got Ronik Sadwani, who won the first game against Shevchenko. He has white in this game, and look at this massive pawns on the queen side. A lot of pawns for white. These are going to be white's main hope one day in some kind of endgame. But in the meantime, the chess gods have placed the middle game, and the rook on g7 is about to have a pretty annoying effect against white's king. This is tough for white here. You got a lot of pressure against this bishop on g4. Black has ideas of knight f4 check, opening up the rook, maybe e4, knight e5. Ooh, this is not easy at all. But yeah, very nice save in that last game by Pravin. Rook h5, definitely a tempting move for white. Perhaps black can bail out with bishop takes g4. But yeah, definitely a tempting move. Okay, Evalbar screaming for something. I'm not sure. Oh, knight f4 check. I think this may be the one. Takes and queen takes h5. And you got the pin on the g file. So a lot of danger here for white. A lot of danger. I think the human thing maybe would be to just get the king off of the g file. But it's hard to find a safe square. I mean, king f1, you're just walking into rook f8, and that doesn't feel any better than having the king on g2. Oh boy, very, very tough position here for Ronik, and he's spending his time. Okay, he takes on f5. That seems like the safest option. Queen takes f5. He stopped for a moment. He was looking for some check in queen f3, but oh, queen c2. Black's rook is now getting in. Rook f8 is a devastating threat right now, followed by knight to f4 check. Oh, this is a problem. Knight h4. Knight h4, I think, should win the house. You just take on c1. Yeah, knight h4. Beautiful. And black won. Black wins the game. So Shevchenko bounces back in the second game with some nice tactics. This was the finish, just for anyone wondering. The pawn on the g file would be pinned. Can't take this knight. Knight would come in, and black would be up a full rook. Okay, we got, lots of games finishing here. What is happening in this position? We got Shamanov, the white pieces against Andreikin. They're in the winner's bracket, and oh man, are we gonna get a draw by repetition? This was the most chaotic. Holy smokes. But okay, draw seems fair. I mean, neither side had any time left in this position. So they draw their game. Looks like Andreikin is winning by a point in this match. Another fast and furious game here. This is the second game between Aturizaga and Serrana. Aturizaga won the first game as black. Now they've got this very equalish endgame. Rook and knight against rook and knight. But it's a pure scramble. Optically feels like white is a tiny bit better because black has this weak pawn on e6. But it seems like Serrana is able to defend this one. And he's holding his own. But yeah, this pawn on e6 is always going to be a sore weakness for black. 2 seconds for Serrana. He needs to make sure he doesn't flag as well. The clock is also a big weakness in these positions. And now g4. Turizaga was offering the h4 pawn, but the knight would have been trapped after king g3. So that was a very nice trick he came up with there. But now Serrana still holding. And he's looking for a repetition, and Turizaga is not giving it to him. He's got this 5-second edge on the clock, and he is milking it. Watch out for e4. Yep, rook e3 back. Again, white is optically tiny bit better here, but it's not quite enough to win on the board. Whoa. Whoa, g-pawn just dropped. Oh, this is huge. This is huge, but black gets the counterplay. Now the knight comes to e5, and black should have enough with this e-pawn to guarantee himself a draw. And we might be seeing a repetition here because, yeah, white does not want to deal with this e-pawn any longer. Okay, draw in the second game. Turizaga keeps his 1-point lead. I think we're going to have a bit of a break. Doesn't look like the next set of games has started here just yet, but probably will be starting soon. And let's just see some of these other games that just ended. So we saw Jacobian draw by repetition against Pravian. Folks, let's go to the bracket. We can see all the scores there. And these are still to be updated with the results of round 2, but you can see the winners of the first game as well as some of their eventual opponents. And yeah, we should have the next set of games starting soon. And we are underway. Let's get back to the board. This is game 3 of Serrana Turizaga. Serrana here is going to need to try and win this game to catch up in the match. And we got a Queen's Indian. Very, very common opening, especially at elite levels. Pretty solid for black, but white gets a bit of a space advantage. And you know what? This actually, I feel like this might be going a little bit wrong for black because Serrana gets queen c2, and now he can push e4 at any moment and take the center. So this is looking quite pleasant for white. So it could be a chance for Serrana to try and win the game and get back into this match, get a point that he desperately needs. Now bishop drop back to c1. It's a very smart play. The bishop just wants to be out of the way. Bishops are long-range pieces, and so as long as they're not blocking anything else, they can actually do their work from afar. b3, bishop b2 certainly can be inserted here. And black needs to figure out his position because he's kind of lacking space. f5 is a very thematic move. I'm sure Turizaga is considering it here, but whenever you play f5 in the position, e6 immediately becomes weak. You got to watch out for d5 and all kinds of shenanigans on the e6 square. Instead, he goes c5. That's definitely a different way to handle this structure, inviting white to take space with the push. Serrana, though, big counterintuitive decision, takes on c5, opening up the d file, and he's going to be trying to make the most out of this one. A bit of a time edge for Serrana. It feels like Turizaga hasn't quite adjusted to the 3-1. Again, folks, this format is very dynamic. You start with 2 games of 5+1, then 2 games of 3-1, and then you go to 2 games of 1-1 if someone hasn't yet scored 3.5 points. So the players are going to have to be on their toes and adjust to the different time controls. It's very easy to get lulled into a false sense of security with the 5-1. feel like 5 minutes, you got plenty of time, you can sit back. All of a sudden you're playing a 3-minute game, all of a sudden you're playing a 1-minute game for your life. So yeah, these players definitely have to get used to the new time control and try to adjust as quickly as possible. Alrighty here, so h6, h4 on the board. Serrano definitely still looking to make the most out of his space advantage. And now rook to d2, just a classic maneuver here, bringing the second rook, doubling on the d file, targeting that weakness. Queen b7, black here has themselves kind of a classic hedgehog setup. Just pushed e5 to fight back in the center, but at the cost of the d5 square. And now Serrano can either right now or wait a bit, but eventually put this knight on d5. Bishop h3 is another move that could be played to insert the bishop into the game. But you gotta watch out for this e-pawn. So maybe white plays f3 somewhere and then eventually prepares bishop h3. Instead he goes a3, looking to push b4 and take some space. The issue is whenever you play b4, you do weaken the pawn on c4. So that's kind of the drawback of this one for white. So he's got to time it carefully. He does just push, knight e6. Now maybe we'll see, yeah, queen to b3. Just sidestepping the rook off of the c-file, defending the c-pawn. A very good blitz play by Serrano. He's not trying to be a genius. He's just improving his pieces one move at a time. Not doing anything too fancy. But white's position with all the pieces on the board is very, very pleasant. Lots of space. Black's pieces starting to feel a little bit cramped here. d6 pawn certainly tender. White has ideas of now doubling on the a file, trying to come in with rook a7. And knight e c7, trying to exchange off one of white's knights. But it feels like white should have some kind of nice solution here. Maybe you can even consider sacrificing the exchange. I think this would be quite aggressive, but let's see what the eval bar thinks. And yeah, it doesn't like it. Definitely gives up a big chunk of white's advantage. So that's not the way to go. Ooh, Serrano drops back with knight a3. And the idea here is like he's just trying to keep as many pieces on the board as possible, mainly because white has more space. So if you start trading stuff off, then black's knights have more room. But here they're kind of stumbling over each other. So that's kind of why this knight dropped back. Now knight a4 hitting the b pawn, but can black go b5 and try to break free? No, instead he goes knight a8, defending the pawn. That doesn't feel right, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. A pawn is a pawn, and you got to defend it. Now 20 seconds for Torrezaga. He's under heavy pressure, but he's so fast that he's probably going to find his way out of this one. So takes, knight e4. Did Serrano blunder a pawn, or does he have something in mind here? He's spending time. I mean, this looks like the most dangerous pin in the world, but right now black is starting to take on d2 and untangle because the knight would be hitting the queen. So white needs to find the square for this queen. Queen d3. Oh, he goes rook d5. Rook d5. Wow, what a sick move. He breaks the pin. Of course his rook isn't hanging anymore, but he breaks the pin. And now of course he has all kinds of discovered attacks. Rook takes e5, rook takes d6. Wow, really like insane. I mean, 3100 level play there by Serrano with rook to d5. That was beautiful. And now look at white's position. I mean, it's just gorgeous. Bishop on g2, supporting this rook on c6. This is what we call teamwork in chess. These pieces are working together. Now he just took on b6. It does allow black to trade off that horrendous knight on a8. But now at least white has the material advantage, an extra pawn in the position. And if Serrano can get this b pawn moving, then he can win this game and get back into the match. But oh, e3 at Torrezaga, flinging the counterplay. 3 seconds for both players. I have no idea how they're not both blundering all of their pieces. Bishop f3, queen c4. Oh no, this has Puzzle Rush written all over it. And now Serrano just completely taking over. He is absolutely in the zone here. Rook A8, the pawn is pushing to B7. The bishop comes in, the knight's going to come in, the king is going to come in. He's bringing all his pieces in. Can he promote this B pawn? Rook goes to A8. What a construction. Everything on the light squares. Knight should have gone to C8. He had knight to C8. All right, he's running around this way. Knight A6. What a position. And that's it. Aturazaga resigns the game. I mean, it's just all over. You can't defend anymore. The B pawn is pushing through. Wow. Wow. What a gorgeous final position that was, huh? All of White's pieces just doing their work. And Serrano manages to tie it up in this match. It's now 1.5 to 1.5 here. Let's jump. We got a bunch of time scrambles happening. Looks like Ronak is about to win the third game of his match against Shevchenko. So Ronak Sadwani, he goes up 2-1 in this match in the losers bracket. And yeah, it looks like all the games from round 1 ended. Let's see what's going on in this match. We have Shamanov against Andreikin. Looks like Andreikin has been off to a great start here, 2.5 to half. And this actually means this is a match point game. So you only have to get the 3.5 points to eliminate your opponent. So Andreikin definitely going to be trying to win this one in order to just end the match here and now. Of course, you could also just try to make 2 draws, make a draw here with black, and then draw the next game with white, and that would do it. But, folks, this is a 3+1 game. The next game is going to be 1+1. And I'm sure Andreikin feels confident in his bullet skills. He's one of the fastest players in the world, but bullet is always volatile, so why not just win the match right here if you can? And he's got a great position to do so. This is what we call a reverse King's Indian attack. It's very confusing because you got the King's Indian defense and you got the King's Indian attack, and then what's a reverse King's Indian attack? Why wouldn't that just be a King's Indian defense? Well, here black is the one with the space advantage, and it kind of resembles those positions that Fischer used to play as white, where he would advance the pawn to e5 and h5 and go for the setup. And yeah, Andreikin has kind of a perfect setup here. A6 is a very thematic move at this point to kind of shut down White's counterplay. This famous idea that Fischer once played. Instead he goes c5. This is a different way to do it, to slow down White's play on the queen side. But yeah, eventually black is 100% eyeing this h3 square and looking for just some kind of possible sacrifice, or even the simple plan of moving the knight and then launching the g-pawn forward with g5, g4. c5, the second pawn comes in, and black is inviting dc in order to open up the d file and target that knight on d2. We might see d5, but then that opens up the long diagonal for black's bishop, and immediately black would be trying to transfer the knight to e5. So knight e2 from Shamanov. He's, of course, in kind of a must-win situation. If he doesn't win this game, if he draws, then Andreikin will just be one draw away from winning the match. But these two are playing in the winner's bracket, so it's not going to be over for Shamanov if he loses this one. He is still going to have a second chance in the loser's bracket. And now rook to b3 played. White looking to double up on the queen side. Infiltrate with rook to b7. And yeah, black's pieces here, they're all lined up on the king side. But what is he actually going to do with these pieces? I mean, at some point, something is going to have to sack. It's just the only way. I mean, these pieces they're hitting all of White's stuff, but what are they actually going to do? Okay, we see rook b8 trading off a pair of rooks. And now queen a4 on Andreikin, trying to infiltrate on the queen side. And it's kind of a funny position. I mean, White's pieces aren't exactly heroes either. They're all kind of passively defending. Queen on d1 is not active, so black's queen on a4 is pretty annoying. Shimano decides to take on c5, allows black to take on a5, and things are kind of liquidating here. But feels like white has essentially survived the worst of it. In fact, actually probably might even be standing quite comfortably now. But still, how do you deal with the pressure on the d file? Okay, rook to b5, that seems smart. Kicking the queen off of a5. I have a feeling Andrekin's going to try to stay active here. Queen a3, queen a2. Yeah, this queen is continuing to try to harass white's pieces. But this allows knight c3. Maybe queen b1, that would hang the knight on d2. So knight c3, hitting the queen again. Queen a3. Black's queen just barely managing to hang on here. And now bishop takes g7. Shimano takes this chance to trade off the dark squared bishops. And yeah, it doesn't feel like black's kingside attack is panning out, right? And that means these pieces here are just kind of misplaced. So knight d5. This is definitely a chance for Shimanov to win a game and come back in the match. Knight to b3. Oh, queen d4 check. Queen d4 check is coming. So bishop takes d5. Andrekin forced to give up his bishop. But now c takes d5. And yeah, definitely a clear advantage for white here. But it won't be easy to convert it, especially as we're about to get into a pretty vicious time scramble. But queen d4, centralizing the queen and pinning this knight. Actually, very unpleasant pin for black to deal with. What to do? The problem, though, is that this rook is tied down to the d-pawn. And now rook b6 hitting the knight. Rook d6 defending. Black had no time to take on d5. Maybe knight e6 was a move. Oh, that would have been a nice one. Okay, takes. Bishop to c4. Black tries to unpin. Feels like white is a bit more active, but black is quite solid with the knights. Knight c5, though, hitting both pawns on e4 and a6. Now knight to b7. Can black hold on to this a-pawn without allowing the d-pawn to break free? I'm not sure that he can. d6. d6 is happening. They traded pieces, 4 seconds for Andrekin. Oh, he hangs the g-pawn. Oh, is completely winning for white now. He can take on f7. The d-pawn is still on the board, and there's just not enough counterplay here for black. So Shimanov picking up a huge win in this game, and he's going to have at least some chances to come back in this match against Andrekin. Okay, first he has to finish it out, but oh, this king is so mated. Bishop d5 and takes, and that's made on the board. So these guys are going to bullet 2.5 in this match. Ooh, plenty of matches here going down to the wire. What's going on here? Black won on time. Oh, the players were repeating. Oh, huge flag here by Turazaga. He in fact had a better position. He was thinking, should he make a draw or push for the win? And he loses on time. That's a huge point for Serrana. Here we have Sodwani against Shevchenko. They're finishing up their game 4, and they both have 1 second on the clock. This is insane. They're just down to their final seconds. Oh, man. And where is black's queen? Okay, finally getting back in, but... Oh, did he have mate? Was queen h7 mate? Oh, my God. Things have moved way too fast. Felt like white had a win there, but now they're in this rook endgame, and now black is the one that's pressing with this a-pawn on c6. Oh, beautiful move. Getting the second rook to a7. How are these players finding these moves so fast? Now the king comes in, the d-pawn is rolling, and Shevchenko might be able to swindle another one. He swindled 1 win earlier. This might be number 2, as it feels like black is really very much on top in this endgame. Rook a5, c4. Now, that's it. Oh, c4 was a check. It was a check. He lost the rook. Oh, what a tactic. He forgot about the king. Oh, and that was it. Oh man, we got to go back. We got to go back, folks. What did he have? He had Black went on this insane excursion. I mean, total Hail Mary to win this game. Queen takes a4, allowing White's pieces to just come in. And this was game over. I think just takes h6. Oh, h4 was the move. Oh, wow. All right. Yeah, that's what we call an impossible. That's what we call an impossible burger in the business. Yeah, no one's finding h4 with seconds on their clock. And that's it, folks. They're going into the bullet. It's 2-2 in this match between Shevchenko and Sadwani. Again, first one to 3.5 wins the match and advances to the next stage of the bracket. We also have Paravian against Hakobian. Here, Hakobian is a point up, so if he wins one of these bullet games, he is through. Let's watch this one, as this is kind of a must-win situation for Paravian with White in this first bullet game. Oh boy, you gotta play fast. I mean, you got the 1 second increment, but holy smokes, this is not a 5-minute game any longer. Now, rook to g1. Man, feels like this position just builds itself. White attacking on the king side. This was definitely a Rui Lopez, but no time to go through the whole game. We're just going to have to watch live. And, oh, we got moves. We got moves. Queen d2. Lots of moves coming in. Takes. White still looking to break through on the king side. He has a bit of a time advantage. And h4, this seems like a big move. Looking to just play h5, g5, h6, g6, just breaking through. How is Black going to deal with this one? 20 seconds for Hakobian. Aram, you're playing bullet. You don't have time to think, boss. You gotta make moves. You gotta just play. Oh man. Oh, this is dangerous. You gotta adjust to the time control. h6, and all right. I think he's turned on the bullet mode. Now the moves are coming fast and steady. Bishop g5. What is this knight on g7 doing? Now g5, White desperately trying to break the king side open. Now if f5, White could just take a bunch of times. That knight on g7 covers this f5 square. But how is Paravian going to up the attack? Oh, knight f5, what a sack. What a sack, and Hakobian wants no part of that one. Doesn't even consider taking. That would be way too dangerous to open up the g file. So knight comes back to g3. What a journey this knight had. From g3 and he hung mate in 1. Oh no, and that's the match. Aram Hakobian sneaks in the mate in 1 threat with queen d7 and wins this first match in the losers bracket against Paravian. Oh, what a find. Dang, folks, that's why we love bullet, huh? That's why we love bullet. We got to jump to other games here. Serrana at Turazaga. This is a match point game. Serrana is up a point in the match. If he can win this game, then it's all over. But he's got 5 seconds. Can he create some play here with his rook, knight, and bishop? Seems like a Turazaga is fine. And 3 seconds for Serrana. He needs to move quickly here. And when Black pins, is he going to trade off on d3? No, it doesn't take the knight. Folks, always take the knight. You always take the knight. Knight f4. Now bishop e4, and oh, Serrana is just scrambling here to survive. 2 seconds. He's just barely getting moves off in time, but they are happening. And White is holding the bishop on e4. He's found a construction here. Still, it's an extra pawn for Black, and at some point rook c3, yeah, it's going to end White's position here. Ooh, now the f pawn is coming in, and Turazaga should convert this one. He absolutely needs this point, and yeah, there's the checkmate. So 2.5, 2.5. These guys are going down to their final game. If this match or any match ends in 3-3, they are going to Armageddon. So 2.5, 2.5 here. Sadwani Shevchenko 3-2. Absolute must-win game for Shevchenko here. And fun fact for you folks about this match, Black has won every game so far in Sadwani Shevchenko. So Black very much okay in this match, as Shevchenko has to win this game. Let's flip the perspective around, see it from Shevchenko's point of view. You guys can pretend you're the player. You're playing Ronak Sadwani. It's 2-3. You're in a must-win bullet game, and you've got this position. And he's got a bit of an edge on the clock, so he's doing well. Also, the position, I would say, lends itself very nicely to bullet, is you've got this harmonious, easy exchange sacrifice. Rook takes e3. You did not have to ask Shevchenko even 1.5 times for that one. He was ready and pounced on it. And now the position for Black kind of plays itself, but what is he going to do on Rook e1, hitting the knight? Maybe Bishop h6? Maybe d4? It's not completely winning for Black, of course, but it is quite comfortable. In fact, okay, objectively, it's hard to say Black really has any advantage here, but it's tricky to play for White. Knight f5 now hitting g3. You got Queen b8 check to defend it with tempo. Ronak just comes back, Queen f3, and Bishop takes b2, snagging an important pawn. This will give Black the chance to run the c pawn here. HG, where's this knight going to go? Still feels like a very nice position for Black. The king is going to sit safely on the dark squares, but watch out for Rook f1 and targeting f7. Knight d4, Queen f6. Are there any discoveries? Or is the bishop just hanging? And Queen c8. Ooh, Shevchenko losing some coordination here as Bishop d5 comes into the position and Queen takes g6. G6 is just hanging. Will Ronak take it? No, he just goes Rook f1. Why not Queen takes g6? The commentator wondered. Knight f5. The queen is hanging. Knight g3 check. White is keeping the extra piece. But this is a must-win game for Shevchenko. Draw is not enough here, even if he manages to hold this one. And yeah, now this is very, very safe for Sadwani. In fact, the draw is fine, and he's just repeating. He knows 3.5 is enough. And Shevchenko just has to desperately avoid the repetition, but he's down a piece, and there's not going to be a whole lot he can do here. He hung the queen! He hung the queen! Ronak Sadwani! Oh no! Folks, he had one job. Oh no, he had one job. Ronak Sadwani. One job. Just don't hang. Unbelievable. Any move was fine. It was completely safe. Shevchenko does the one thing he could have done, and now these players are going to Armageddon. It's 3-3. Folks, let's check in with the bracket here. We're going to have to refresh to get the standings. And looks like we have Serrana advancing against Iturrizaga, Andreykin advancing against Shamanov. They'll play in the next match in the winners brackets. Meanwhile, Iturrizaga and Shamanov, they'll move down to the losers brackets, and one of them will face Hakobian. That'll be Shamanov against Hakobian, and Iturrizaga is going to be facing the winner of the upcoming Sadwani Shevchenko Armageddon match. Oh boy. Destiny took over, folks. Destiny took over. Black won every game in this match. So it'll be very interesting to see what the players bid in order to get Black for the next Armageddon game. That'll be starting soon, I believe. We're going to get word on the Armageddon and when that'll be happening. I'm sure the players need a second to catch their breath. And in the meantime, Serrana and Andre can get a bit of a break before starting their next match in the winner's bracket. All right, we've got the bids in, folks. The Armageddon game is going to be starting soon. And get a load of this. Ronak bid 355. So the way the bids work is that whoever bids less time for black will then get that time on their clock with no increment against 5 minutes for white. So Ronak bid 355 to take the black pieces. Kirill Shevchenko 459 was his bid, meaning he very much wants white in this Armageddon game. Bold strategy. Black has won every game in this match, but Shevchenko thinks he can break the trend. He decides, you know what, no, we're going to take white. And it is a no increment game, so that's going to change the dynamics of the time scrambles quite a lot. You know, you can't survive on the 1 second increment. You do have to be very, very careful that you don't just get flagged. So this is going to be very feisty. Armageddon should be starting any moment now. And yeah, it's going to be 5 minutes for Shevchenko versus 355 and draw odds for Sadwani here. And we got a Berlin on the board. Shevchenko, must-win game. He has to defy history here and win with white. Something that has never been done before in this match in the 2023 Speed Chess Championship. So yeah, 458, that would have been an insane bid from Sadwani. that would have just been 3,500 ELO level bid there if Sadwani had done the 458. So he's got less time, about a minute less for Sadwani. And this, in my opinion, is exactly the kind of position you want as white in these Armageddon games. It's a closed structure, lots of pieces on the board. Very few tactics, very few pieces are going to get traded off here. And it's going to be hard for Sadwani with a time disadvantage to keep up on the clock. So very, very smart play here by Shevchenko to take it to one of these positions where it's just a matter of making a lot of moves, a lot of maneuvering. I imagine we're going to see knight g2 now, just pulling the knight back, rook f1. No, he goes knight f5. He's like, all right, if you want to trade off your light scored bishop, by all means, I am trying to win this game and not just trying to flag you. And queen h5. And white is now looking to create some play on the king side. h4 probably coming at some point, looking to get h5 in. And yeah, Ronak having to spend some time here to figure out how exactly he wants to defend the king side. Can't just let white keep maneuvering forever. Now knight e7, introducing the possibility of g6, but there will always be knight h6 check in response. Either way, Shevchenko, of course, knight on f5 was hanging as well. Knight, he doesn't want to allow black to take that one. And knight comes back to g6, knight c4, f6. Very thematic move here by Sadwani. He's just holding the position steady. This bishop should drop back to f8 at some point just to make sure g7 is protected. And it's a very solid position for black, but the question is, if white just keeps making moves, h4, queen e2, rook f1, will black have enough time to actually finish the game? And that's definitely not super clear. So bishop c5, rook f1, Shevchenko building up in b5. Yeah, Ronak doing exactly what he needs to do. Got to get some counterplay on the queen side. Now he's looking either to take, or if takes, he'll take back and then he'll get a4 in and start opening up his pieces there. So b5 and Shevchenko spending some time, because now, yeah, white has to start making some headway on the king side. So knight to g4. Knight to g4. Is he looking for some kind of sacrifice? Perhaps, yeah, that previous position, knight h6 check, might have been an idea, followed by knight takes f6. So black trades on f5, and goes knight e7. And how is white going to cover this pawn? If knight e3 you can take, then fe opens up the rook. But that allows black to trade off more pieces and simplify the situation. And he doesn't trade, he goes bishop d4 instead, going after white's bishop. Bishop a3, provoking b4. No, takes on a4, goes c5, eyeing this a4 pawn. We saw Shevchenko win an earlier game where he just snagged this pawn, leaving his king completely empty. But yeah, that's a bold strategy. If you can get away with it, then that's a huge way to play for the win, just by taking the pawn and then creating your own counterplay on the queen side. Shevchenko now equal on the clock to Sadhwani, as he's trying to figure out how to win from this position. Now, one very obvious plan that comes to mind is g4, g5, just getting the rook up. I'm sure he's going to try to do this one at some point. But of course, in the meantime, there's queen takes a4, black will play h6. Black has a lot of counterplay in this position. Ronak now thinking, goes queen f5, safety first approach, grabs this pawn, queen e2, and then just drops back to d7. And this is not looking good for Shevchenko. Again, he's in a must-win situation here. It is an Armageddon game. And now we're down to just a 2-minute game here. It's basically 2-0 to advance to the next round and avoid elimination. And there's g4. Yeah, you had to do it at some point. Otherwise, white just had no play in the position. But queen d5, this is going to be a cold shower. Just taking the queens off of the board and completely neutralizing white's attack. So Sadhwani should be winning this one. He's got the better position and the draw odds. But can he keep his nerves? There's no increment in the situation. He grabs another pawn. Now black is 2 pawns up. Total control. Equal on the clock. Everything going his way. Can he finish it off? Rook b5 from white. But now takes rook b8. Black can grab another pawn. Or push a4. Or go knight b4. Honestly, folks, every move wins. Every move looks quite good for black. The position is just fantastic. This bishop on d4 is dominating everything. And there's nothing white can really do here except hope for some kind of miracle. Okay, knight c3, g5, just trying to open anything up. Black can probably take this pawn if he wants, but doesn't really need to. Goes knight takes b5 instead. And this is looking really, really tough for Shevchenko. Takes on f6. My guess is you got to bring it back. Bishop c1. And look for some play on the king side. But yeah, there's just not going to be enough there. So rook to b1. Shevchenko desperately trying to hold on. But now takes in c4. Oh, gorgeous move by Sadhwani. If knight takes c4, then the pawn would advance. If pawn takes, we see bishop comes in. And now a3 and a2 is unstoppable for black. And yeah, I think if Ronak wants, he can win this one. c6, moving the knight, and then bishop to d4. Okay, c3. Shevchenko definitely not going down without a fight. Perhaps time to bring the king in. Black also, in addition to this a-pawn, has 2 connected passers on the E and F files that are very, very strong. Rook a4, and yeah, Ronak should have enough time to convert this one. King can come to f7 next. White c-pawns are hanging. The a-pawn is still alive. The knight is trapped. How many advantages can you ask for here? Gotta be a win for Ronak. Shevchenko has turned around a few positions already, but okay, one was just an absolutely unexpected queen blunder. You know, you can't really count on that in this position. And there goes the knight. Completely winning position here for Ronak. He just has to finish it off. And Shevchenko, yeah, I mean, he's had his fair fortune today, so no reason to resign just yet, but he gives it up, and that's game over. So Sadhwani, the very nice win, advances to the next stage of the bracket, where I believe he will be facing Mr. Eduardo Iturrizaga. In fact, let's jump to the bracket, folks. We're going to see the upcoming matches here soon. We're going to have Serrana against Andrakin in the winner's bracket. Huge matchup there. And then Shamanov versus Hakobian in the first match in the loser's bracket, and Iturazaga against Sadwani in the lower match as well. Quick break for Ronak here. And in the meantime, we're going to take a quick break as well and then get back to the next matches. Catch you all very, very soon. And we'll be right back. The 2023 Speed Chess Championship. See you all soon. And folks, we are back with the 2023 Speed Chess Championship, brought to you by chess.com and Coinbase. The next matches are just about to get started here. We're going to have Serrano against Andreikin, Shamanov against Hakobian, and Iturazaga against Sadwani. We got seconds away from the games, and here we go. We got moves. All right, first up, Shamanov against Hakobian. Now, this is in the losers bracket, so again, these players are on their last life in this first game, and we're back to our usual format. So 2 games of 5-1, 2 games of 3-1, 2 games of 1-1, then Armageddon if we need. And look at this high level opening theory. These guys, these players, they know what they're doing. They know their stuff. Queen e7 check, king d1, introducing a very gentle threat of rook e1, black castles, rook e1, queen c5, and bishop b3. And yeah, in the past you would think, White's king on d1 doesn't look great here, but the king will get out. White will play c3, d4, and slowly develop their position. Rook e3, very, very unusual, I gotta say, development here from Shamanov. Just defending the queen, looking to trade on his own terms and put pressure on f7 there. And Hakobian here thinking about this one. In the meantime, we also have Iturazaga against Sadwani as the other match in the losers bracket. And yeah, very interesting position here. I feel like we saw this opening earlier. We had an English, and Sadwani has been relying on this setup for quite a bit. He played this in the previous match as well. And yeah, looks like Sadwani really likes going for these kind of funky Dutch-like structures. Knight on c7, knight on f6. Very unusual. Black playing with this weak square on e6. At first glance, it feels quite promising for white. You get the knight on f4, but black has a lot of pieces covering this e6 square. Bishop e3. Okay, doesn't put the bishop on b2, a bit surprising there, and c5, stopping the bishop from coming to d4. Queen d2. Taking control over this g5 square. I wonder if we'll see h6 at some point. I remember Sadwani, he pushed g5 earlier, and oh, h6, nice. We called it. We called it. Getting the feeling for how Sadwani plays these positions. Will we get g5 even at some point? Feels like black just plays this one with no fear. Doesn't worry about any sacrifices and just tries to control that f4 square. Yeah, very bold play here from Ronak. And our third match in the winner's bracket, we've got Serrano against Andreikin. And what do we got here? Kind of a calm situation in the first game. Maybe a small advantage for white with this very, very nice knight on c5. But yeah, definitely liking Serrano's chances here in this game one. He can play on the queen side, possibly bring the king in. And it's up to black to figure out. In fact, knight d3 is kind of a problem, just going after this pawn. How's black going to defend the pawn after knight to d3? So knight e4, knight d3, as expected. And now what? If rook a4, you have b3. Okay. It's like these guys are listening. Are you guys listening? Serrano and Andreikin, You guys need to play your game, okay? Stop listening to the the commentary. All right, knight c3. Looks like black has tons of compensation now for this pawn. Rook is coming to a8, and it's very hard for white because as soon as you move the knight, then the a2 pawn is going to fall. So this one looks like he grabbed the pawn, but it's not really going to be enough for Serrana, who I notice now is rated 3,100 in Blitz. What a monster. Okay, definitely don't go rook c1. Hang knight e2 check, but yeah, it seems like black is okay here. He's just going to play rook a8 and then win back the pawn on a2. And then if anything, black will be a little bit more comfortable because white's b pawn is going to be loose. Okay, let's jump back because I think Andreykin is going to hold his own here. And, oh, the game finished. Okay, game one in Jacobi and Shimanov ended in a draw. So they're on to their game two now. Let's jump back to Sadwani against Iturrizaga. This is such a big matchup of generations, really. Iturrizaga a little bit older, Sadwani certainly on the younger side, but Iturrizaga has been one of the top speed chess players for quite some time now. So he is about as experienced as they come. And he's not going to go down to Sadwani without a fight. Sadwani just won a brutal match against Shevchenko where yeah, every game in that match was won with black, including the Armageddon game. And very, very tricky position here. All the pieces still on the board. White having a big space advantage. So it's really up to black to kind of figure out and break free. And here comes b5. Definitely a very logical move in the position from Ronak Sadwani. White can take once and open the a file, but then it's not clear what to do from there because black wants to play b4. And so white will have to get out of that pin. So takes. Maybe rook c1 here feels solid. You can consider rook a7 as well. A little bit more active. I'm not sure which way. Whoa, bishop e2 allowing b4 and sacrificing the exchange. I'm not clear if Iturrizaga meant to do this. It kind of feels like a blunder. He's not making his move quickly. He's kind of thinking, yeah, I don't think he meant to sack this exchange because it's typical. You give up the exchange for the dark squared bishop, but not buying it here because white's dark squared bishop doesn't have a lot of access to black's weaknesses here. Now bishop d7, the queen can come to f6. Yeah, I think Iturrizaga just blundered this b4 idea. Now he's scrambling to find compensation for the exchange. So big opportunity here for Sadwani to win this first game. I'm being told Serrana won that first game. And oh, look at what happened, folks. Unbelievable. We had this endgame pretty much as equal as it gets. Black has the perfect setup. And Andreykin blundered the one tactic in the position. I mean, holy smokes. Spend 10 seconds on king f8. Wow, I mean, total. Look, I get that me and everyone else in chat, we do this every day. But for a player like Andreykin, I mean, this is a catastrophic blunder with 2 minutes on the clock. Holy smokes. And that's just a free point for Serrana, who's now leading a point in their match. And that must be very tilting for a player like Andreykin as well, of that level. But we'll have to get back to them. In the meantime, Iturrizaga and Sadwani still playing their first game. Sadwani looking to convert this one. He's got the extra exchange and needs to use it. Rook e7, rook a8, doubling on the e-file. It's a very logical plan when you've got the exchange. You do want to try to trade off the opponent's rook so that you're the only one with a rook in the position as a bit of a strategy. But knight e8, where is this knight going? Possibly to f6, I guess, and then to e4. First black is going to have to move the queen, though. Where's the queen going? Queen a1? Even despite the extra exchange, it's clear that, yeah, black's position feels somewhat cramped. And there's queen a1. So now he wants knight f6, rook e8, knight e4, bring all the pieces in. And, oh, bishop d4. Was this blundered by Sedwani? Rook on e7 is hanging, and the queen. Oh, and black's going to have to give the exchange back. His position might still be good, but this was not the plan. Or does he sack the queen? Or the rook takes e1. Takes and takes. Ooh, look at this. You got 2 rooks against the queen here. And who's better and why? No, definitely feels like black is still for choice. I mean, these rooks are very active. And white's pieces just don't have a lot of moves. Maybe knight d3. Try to kick the rook out of e1. Very tough position for both sides. I could see all 3 results happening here. The queen, of course, could be very, very strong, especially if white gets g4 and starts going after black's king. So queen b2, bishop d3. Iturrizaga managing to improve the position tremendously here, but now rook a3. The counterplay is coming back. And Sedwani trying to make the most out of his rooks on the A file. Maybe rook a1, rook a2. Okay, he goes rook a2 first, and there's g4. Iturrizaga going all out on the king side. And this is just incredibly double-edged game. Maybe g5. He plays it, fighting for the e5 square. Oh, beautiful move by Sedwani. Bishop g6, rook f8. Takes. This is looking very, very tenuous for white as the king is weak. Black's pieces are just on the verge of getting in. But black's king also isn't exactly tremendously safe here. Queen d2, rook e5 looks like the move. No, rook a3 just going after the b pawn. Yeah, time to play. And rook e3. Oh, the rooks come in, and now Sedwani's completely winning. He has his passed b pawn. White needs to get some counterplay, but 3 seconds for both sides. This is just going to be a pure time scramble. White picking up a lot of checks. Does he have a perpetual? Ronuk's trying to get out. But how can he? Queen h8 check stops the king from escaping. And I think Iturrizaga found the construction here to make the repetition, saves the game. Unbelievable save by Iturrizaga there to draw that first game. So their match is tied half a point. Man, that was just the first game of their match. Some of these matches are well into their second game. Let's jump back in and check in with Shimanov and Hakobian. This is their game 2. And Hakobian going back to the Catalan served him pretty well so far. Pretty solid setup here. Looks like Shimanov sacrificed a pawn. But no, Hakobian sacrificed the rook. Knight e5. Holy smokes. Castles. Knight c6. What? This was just man, they were playing this position this whole time. What an insane game. We were looking at that end game, you know, just chilling. 2 rooks versus the queen, and they had this insane mess. Holy smokes. Well, let's get to the live position. So e5, king d2, e4, bishop g2. Now we kind of understand how we got to this point. Knight on a1 finally gets caught. Knight, rook takes b8. And actually, a lot of the smoke is cleared now, and looks like white's just a pawn up in the endgame with a very nice position. So this looks like a huge winning opportunity for Hakobian here. Just a very clean pawn up. Maybe b3 now. Okay, it goes a3, also logical. Putting the pawns on the opposite color to the bishop, following the great Jose Raul Capablanca. That was his famous rule. And now b4, Shimanov playing for counterplay here. But giving white a lot of options. Rook c5, rook c7. Of course, rook c5, you got to watch out for b takes a3, a b2 ideas. But Yeah, I think a4 makes a lot of sense here, keeping the queen side a bit more closed. This pawn can go to a5, and then it can be supported by the rook. Bishop drops back to f1. And yeah, all of white's pieces are in the game. Okay, black defending with rook a8. Maybe white should have fixed that pawn with a5 first. I'm not sure. Instead, he goes for the rook endgame. Very nice transition. This feels like an easy position to play for white, as he has this extra pawn. He has the more active rook. He can bring the king in. And yeah, all he has to do is first make sure black doesn't get any counterplay on the king side with h4. And yeah, Engine is calling it. Eval bar says nearly +4 advantage, which is not actually that hard to believe, as white just has such a tremendous grip on the position that the Engine is just calculating a million moves ahead and already seeing that white is just winning. Okay, rook c5, rook d5, offering the king and pawn endgame even though he's a pawn down. I mean, should be lost for black, but of course desperate times call for desperate measures. And Jacobian, I guess the problem is takes, king c2, king c4. This is a little tricky. It's like, how do you win this? But he goes for it, takes, and now just b3. And Jacobian is going to show the winning method here. I think he wants to break with f3 and then walk the king over to h3, break with g4. The problem for black is that the king is tied down to the d pawn. So if everything remained closed in the position, black would be holding. But here Jacobian is just showing some beautiful GM level technique. Whoa, king g1. Okay, I don't think... Not really clear on why this is all necessary, but he's... just trying to maneuver the position a bit. Now g4 and h5. Oh, I love this break. h5, not letting black's pawn support the friend on g4. And now white's king is coming into g3. And the point is that black's king is just going to be distracted by this d pawn. So this should be winning for white. He's going to pick up the g pawn and then have enough time to also win the e pawn, as his king is going to be more active. Seconds for Shamanov. h6, king h4, and oh, the pawn is just lost. Black doesn't even have time to hold on to it, and that's it. Game over. Something like this might happen, but then takes, and this is just a very trivially won endgame for white, as the king can stop the h pawn, and then these two pawns take care of themselves. So a very nice win by Jacobian. He takes the lead in his match, and now we're on to game 2 of Iturrizaga and Sadwani. Looks like Andreykin and Serrana, they drew their second game. So Serrana keeps a 1-point lead going into the 3+1 games. Let's just quickly play through this one, see what happened. Ooh, g4. It's a pretty fancy line. Takes. And wow, knight takes b5. Andreykin went for it in this game with the p-sack. Rook takes d7. Oh, look at this. Bro thinks he's Morphe or something. Wow. Amazing play. Huge attack. Somehow Serrana managed to survive this one by castling queenside, of all things. And queen a5, and we got this draw by repetition in the end. Okay, this game's still ongoing. Sadwani against Iturrizaga, and let's just back it up and see what happened here. e4, c5. We had a Sicilian with the c3, delayed c3, d5. And early g5 from Iturrizaga. Man, we've seen a lot of wacky openings today, but yeah, this one is really something. Bishop g7, now black going after this e-pawn and winning the pawn. White gets the pawn back, king f8, a totally chaotic position. It doesn't feel totally healthy for black, but on the other hand, black's pieces are actually kind of active here. And oh, hold on, what happened here? Bishop d2, knight f5, and bishop a5. Iturrizaga might have just blundered another exchange. Ronak took this one, knight c4, queen e5. Now this is a live position. Ronak with a good chance to maybe take the lead in this match, but bishop takes f4. Black snagging a pawn. White can go for the endgame and have a clear exchange up, and that should be very advantageous position for white, but won't be the easiest thing to convert. Yeah, there's also the option, I should just know, to take here. But then that would allow bishop takes h2 check, and this looks very scary for white. If king h1, there's knight g3. If king f2, then the queen can come in. So this would be, yeah, incredibly scary for white to go into. So that's why we saw the queen trade, and that's why Ronak was thinking about it. Knight c2, knight g4, g3, rook to g8. Well, okay, I mean, extra exchange for white, but black is still very much putting some pressure on the king side. Lots of compensation here, I gotta say. A lot of compensation for black. And now h4 is coming, and Sadwani needs to figure out what he wants to do on this one. Really not easy for white here because black just has so much pressure. I mean, black is down the exchange, but so what? All the pieces are putting pressure, and yeah, it seems like it's just a matter of time before black is breaking through. So bishop g2 tries to cover with the bishop. But yeah, what about h4 now? How is white going to be dealing with this one? Yeah, I don't know, but the Turazaga, he's spending a lot of time. Sadwani spent a minute on that move with Turazaga, turns a favor, 45-second think, and drops back with knight h6. Very deep move. Something he didn't like about just the immediate h4, but this is still in the air. Okay, knight b4. Ronak playing on the queen side. Bishop b5, putting a bit of pressure here. Still delaying h4. For some reason, Turazaga not wanting to rush with this push. Knight a3, bishop d7, knight a6. These knights are trying. But black's bishops are getting out of the way. Knight c5 now, hitting the bishop again. Bishop e8. All of Turazaga's pieces just on the back rank. But he still got the play. h4, still in the air. And there he goes. Finally pushes it. And now a4. White just giving up on the g3 pawn. He's got the extra exchange, and oh, that's the concept. Now he's just pushing the a pawn and the b pawn. b5, a5, creating the pass pawn, making a new queen, and let's go. Do your worst. Do your worst. Well, black's knights are now jumping in. Knight takes g2, knight h4 check is the idea. Then maybe g2. So bishop e4. There's no time for either of these players. They're just going to have to make moves as quickly as they can now. Takes. Black's pawns looking very dangerous, as well as the bishops. Now bishop a5, bishop c3, the bishop invading into white's position, and black looks totally in control now. Look out for f5, just getting the third pawn running. Ooh, and g2. White's rook's really trying hard here, but does the Turazaga have enough time? He's got 3 seconds. Rook c4, bishop d6, b6. Ronak trying to get his queenside going. He takes on e3 and oh, bishop h2 check. Black promotes the pawn. Oh, beautiful find by Turazaga. He wins the second game and takes the lead against Ronak Sadhwani in their match. Ronak is going to have to bounce back in this one. What a beautiful finish. Bishop h2 check. And that's it. The king has to get off of the g-file, and Black promotes and wins the game. All right, we are about to get into the 3-minute portion. Let's review the bracket, folks. Now, a couple of players have already qualified into the Speed Chess Championship, and they are Yu Yang Yi and Vidit Gujarati. They qualified during the first qualifier held earlier this week. And we have some players, of course, seeded into the event, such as Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura. Gukesh as well has qualified by virtue of winning the Junior Speed Chess Championship. But right now, you can see the results in the bracket here. Sarana Andraken, Sarana leading by 1 point in the final match here. Now, the winner of this match qualifies directly into the main event held later this year. So they're not going to be playing another match after this. And then we've got the losers bracket, which is, of course, still left to be determined. But one player will be emerging from the losers bracket as well and qualifying for the main event. And, okay, we've got games. The 3-minute portion is underway. And, folks, just look at this position here that we have off the bat in the match between Shamanov and Hakobian. Shamanov, down a point, definitely needs to strike back. Uses the Trumpowski. Great opening when you're trying to mix things up. But what a wild position. After takes e5, queen b6. Aram sacrificing a piece early as Black. And getting just massive compensation here with e5. Wow, what a position. Knight h3 played, takes on f6. And just for the price of one piece, Black has amassed these huge pawns in the center. Of course, forced White's king out into the open. And now the knight comes out to c6. And looking like a great attacking situation here for Black and castle queenside. Yeah, just get the king out of the center, bring the rooks in, start marching the e-pawn forward. And yeah, looking very, very tricky here for White, who's going to have to defend this now. What a position, especially in blitz. What a absolutely wild position. Okay, f5, bishop e3. Shamanov trying to trade things off. But even in the endgame, Black probably has quite a bit of play with the pawns. But Akobian kind of reasonably keeps the queens on the board. He wants to attack White's king and use his queen another time. So f4 now. Queen c5. That said, Shamanov is up a piece. So if he's allowed to go bishop b5 and simplify, then he's going to be very happy. But rook g8, not letting the bishop leave without allowing rook to g2 check. Rook d1, oh, excellent decision. White is now looking to castle by hand. If he gets the king to b1, he's going to be very safe there. So Black actually has kind of limited time to figure out what to do. Maybe get the pawns moving, e4, f3, f5. Definitely some play left here for Black. Okay, let's just go around the horn. We also have Sarana against Andraken. Again, the winner of this match qualifies directly to the Speed Chess Championship. So very, very important match here. Sarana up a point, but this endgame, ooh, I don't know. I mean, he's got some pawns. Black has some pawns. Both sides have their pawns. Black's d-pawn, though, looking very strong. And Black's king closer to the action. I gotta feel like Black is actually the one for choice here in this match. So Andraken will definitely be hoping to keep his chances alive. And then we've got Sadhwani and Turazaga. They've started their 3-minute games as well. Turazaga a point up in this match. And he is definitely pushing. And oh, nice find. Knight takes d5 and bishop h3 check. Oh, and this is game over. Look at this. A Turizaga with the find. Knight takes d5, and that's it. Winning by resignation as black is losing the exchange there. Now 2.5 for Turizaga. Ronak in an absolutely must-win situation in this next game. Let's go back to the previous games and let's go back to this game. This game is absolutely wild. Shamanov against Hakobian. Black here sacrificing the piece early on for these massive pawns. You know, f5 soon, f4, e3, f2, but in the meantime, white is holding on with the extra piece. The bishop on f1 is doing work. And what's going on here? Can black take on... Can white take on d4? The knight on c6 is pinned. So white can grab this pawn. And, decides to take with the rook. Very interesting. But Evalbar doesn't like that move at all. Trades on d4. Now maybe e3. Getting the pawn moving. No, it goes f2. Ooh, queen d1 check. Big idea here with queen to d1. Watch out. Watch out. Aram already sneaked in one, made in one earlier today. I'm sure he's looking for another one. But the second idea is that black also wants to go rook to g1. So it's not just about stopping queen d1, but rook g1 is also kind of a problem. So queen e2 trades and knight takes. Yeah, this is smart to cover the g1 square. But now e3. And how is white going to develop against these pawns? Now black's second f pawn is going to start running as well. f5, the knight can come in, the king comes in. Oh boy, what an endgame. But 4 seconds for Hakobian. Hold on. 3 seconds, he has to play fast. Knight d4, nice move. If takes, there's rook g1 check. What a tactic. What a tactic. And he's got knight f3 in the position. Knight d2, all kinds of ideas. Knight g3, e2. Black finally gets the piece back. Rook comes to g1. And I think black is winning this endgame. This is going to be a huge point for Aram if he can finish this off. Knight f4. This f pawn just doing all the work. And that's it. He wins by resignation. And nothing white can do as bishop is hanging. Rook on f1 is hanging. And that's it. Game over. So Hakobian taking the lead 2.5. Here we have game 3. Serrano with the winning rook endgame against Andreykin. And wait, no, where to go? where to go? Okay, looks like we caught the final seconds there. I think Andreykin resigned as he was down a couple pawns, but it looks like Serrano is now leading 2.5. So huge leads in these matches. We have Serrano ahead by 2 points. Andreykin an absolutely must-win situation. Hakobian also ahead by 2 points and playing white. So this is going to be his chance to get closer to 3.5. And we've got a Turizaga with 2.5 against half against Sadwani. So some big margins here. A lot of players in must-win situations. Let's watch Sadwani as he's now 2 points. Playing white definitely needs a win in this game to stay alive in the match. We did see some players in the first round manage to bounce back, so nothing is over yet. Let's just see what happened here. It looks like it was Rosalimo with g6. Very trendy opening at the top level. White gives up the bishop pair and then starts playing funny moves like queen to c3. But the idea is that you target black's pawns, so it can be a little bit annoying. But yeah, Ronak definitely maneuvering quite a bit in this opening. And now c4, b4, black electing to keep the queen side closed. The issue for black here in this structure though is these doubled c-pawns are long term super weak. And white has all these ideas. Another plan here, queen f3 just play. Another plan would be to go to f3, queen f2. And just target the pawn like this. And it's very hard for black to hold on to everything. And in long run, the problem is this bishop on b7. You can just see it suffering here, blocked by the c-pawn, blocked by the second c-pawn, blocked by white's pawns. This poor bishop just has really nothing to do. And in the meantime, Ronak is just building up on the king side. King h2 just played, indicating he wants to go rook h1 and then h4. He starts with rook g1, perhaps rook g3 is coming, and then h4 and g5 is the intention. This seems like a great chance for Ronak to get a point back in this match. He's up a full minute on the clock as well. Iturrizaga, he's about to do that thing though where he turns on his bullet skills and just starts playing fast and furious. So rook f6, how's Ronak going to continue? Queen e2, looks like he's building up. Black does have this 1 second increment though, so it's not like white can just play for the flag. And rook d4, oh look at this Petrosian style exchange sack in the middle of the board. Of course, the problem is white can just ignore it, but I have a feeling he's going to take at some point because you might as well. Now knight to b6, provoking a5. Ronak here with a minute on the clock. He has time, but also the d-pawn is hanging, so watch out for rook takes d3. Hold on, this is tricky. White might need to just take the rook and just play the position with the exchange. No, he goes a5, allowing rook takes d3. Oh, he's got bishop takes c5. Very nicely calculated by Ronak. He takes on c5, his knight's covering the bishop, and now white is not yet winning material, but very, very close. He's dominating the d file. He's got queen d2 coming, and all of white's pieces are just in the position. c5, knight d6 as well, and that's it. He just wins by resignation. Black wasn't even down material. He just resigns. He just it's just too ugly a position for Iturrizaga to look at. Well, now b4 is hanging, and yeah, d7 is hanging, so everything is just collapsing here. So Ronak with a huge win there, very important point to stay alive in the match. Now here Hakobian is trying to finish things off against Shamanov. He's up by 2 points and playing white slightly better in this endgame. He's starting to take on d7. Black is of course going to defend this somehow, and game will continue from there. But king e7, you have to be careful. There's bishop takes d7, followed by bishop takes c5 check, big problem. And black is losing material there. So bishop a4, 30 seconds for Shamanov. He takes on b4. White just calmly recaptures. Knight on d7 still hanging. And what to do about this one? Rook d8 now is met with bishop b6, taking advantage of the pin, and white would be winning. So how to play? I don't see such a uncomfortable move here for black. King e7 feels okay. Knight b8, but now rook d8. The rook can just come in. I think the rook just comes in for Hakobian and starts dominating. So bishop e7, rook h8. Now if king g7, white is kind of committed to going after this this pawn. Oh no, but then there's bishop f7, so he brings it back, rook to e8, king f7. And now how to use this rook. I mean, this pin is just devastating for black. And oh, there it is, knight d3, involving the last piece. Now knight can come to c5, and white is dominating. Okay, bishop c5, ooh, bishop b3, but rook f8 check, and he's gonna take the bishop, and that's game, set, and match. Hakobian advances to the next stage of the bracket. Let's jump back. We have the fourth game between Andreykin and Sarana. And oh, folks, we got ourselves a rook endgame. Let's go. Let's go 4 versus 3. Ooh, what a classic situation. Yeah, shout out to Piquet Kasparov, huh? 2001. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right, Andreykin's going to be testing Sarana here. We'll see if Sarana has been reading his Dvoretsky endgame manual. And it's a critical moment because Andreykin is down 2 points in this match. And of course you would always play 4 versus 3 for a win, but in particular you really need to make the most use out of this chance here. There is a bit more play in 4 versus 3 compared to 3 versus 2. But a lot of times you do get something like this where if you're not able to make any progress in the 4 versus 3, then you got to start trading pawns and taking your chances with the 3 versus 2. But right now this is very, very drawish here. So far Serrana has defended this one basically perfectly, but Andreykin is going to keep trying, and he's got this last chance here. He's got this last nibble where he has this idea to push f5 and try to advance the king, right? He did manage to kind of get black's king somewhat out of position. It's still enough for a draw here for black, but of course he has to play extremely precisely. Maybe rook to b1 might be an idea in order to have rook h1 check. Serrana, though, going down to 4 seconds, and just like that, eval bar doesn't like that. Andreykin has a win. Rook a6 check. I mean, very bold move to try to trade the pawns, but oof. Key moment here for Andreykin. If he doesn't find the right solution here, he's not going to win this game. What does white do? He gives the check. Oh, that wasn't right. That wasn't right, but he might still win. There's still play left in the position. What was the move? I don't see. Was it king g5? It might have been king g5. I don't know. But check, check. He has another chance here. He's got another chance. King g5 played, takes, f5 check, f6, rook f3. Oh, f6 might not have been right. Black might have enough play now with the g-pawn. He probably had to take. And Andreykin might have blown it. I think he had a chance there, but that's it. Serrana saved this one, and yeah, now they're just going to trade off. Oh, huge miss for Andreykin. Let's just back it up. I think this was the key moment right here. f5, king d6. He had to just take the moment to take this pawn. Just not enough time to figure this out, but the point is that black's king isn't able to get back in time in order to defend. White has this key move, rook a6, cutting the king off. And if black's rook was anywhere else, it would give rook g1 check and make a draw. But here, white is getting rook e6 to cut the king off even further and win the rook endgame. Super, super tricky to find this with just seconds on your clock, but that's what had to be done. Folks, we are all through with a 3-minute portion. We are now moving on to 2 games, 1+1. Let's check in with our friendly neighborhood bracket here. As we can see, Serrana is 3-1 in the lead against Andreykin, on the verge of qualifying for the Speed Chess Championship. Huge achievement for a player of Serrana's level. The Speed Chess Championship, of course, is just the premier event in online speed chess play, where you go up against the likes of Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and other top players. Meanwhile, in the losers bracket, Jacobian has knocked out Shamanov, and he's going to play the winner of the match between Sadwani and Iturazaga. Iturazaga currently leading by a point there, needs just 1 more point to advance himself. All right, in the meantime, the 1-1 games have gotten started. We got a run there, and Serrana just needs a half a point out of these next 2 games against Andreykin in order to qualify for the Speed Chess Championship. So he's got white in this first game. This is definitely the big opportunity to do it. And yeah, he didn't go for the exchange Slav, but he did after a6. After a6, okay, here it's a bit more testing, of course. And Serrana, obviously incredibly skilled bullet player. Both these guys over 3,000 in their bullet, which is kind of astronomical if you think about it. But yeah, Serrana is going to need to keep his cool here if he wants to collect this half point. But hey, this is the position to do it in. This is very, very drawish, very safe. Only 1 open file in the position, which means at any point white can just go knight e2, trade off all the rooks. And they are playing 1+1, so it's not like 1+0 where your opponent can basically flag you in any position and it's very hard to force a draw. With the 1 second increment, these players are skilled enough to to keep everything very, very safe and steady. So king f2, now knight e2, initiating the rook trade. Very hard to avoid the rook trade here for black. Both rooks are going to have to come off here. Otherwise, you're ceding the only open file. On Draken, okay, he is in kind of a must-win situation here. So he keeps the rook on the board. And not a kind of must-win situation, a must-win situation. If he does not win this game, Draken is out of today's qualifier. And he may never play chess again for today in this tournament. He'll probably play later today, but like, you know, casually, not like in an official SCC event. It's going to be the end of his SCC qualifier number 2 event. Knight d7. Serrana looking to retire his opponent from this competition. Rook c8. And there's no advantage here for black, but Draken knows he just has to keep the game going. 10 seconds on the clock for both players. In fact, chat correcting me beautifully, and it is a double elimination, so Draken would absolutely still be in the event. In fact, he would go down to the losers bracket and have a second chance to qualify for the Speed Chess Championship. But he will not be qualifying through the winner's bracket. Anyway, Draken needs to win 5 seconds on the clock. Bishop to h7. How did he even have enough time to make this move? f5, inviting en passant. He doesn't take it. Bishop comes and snakes through black's position all the way back to a4. Huge play. Serrana has absolutely found his flow state here. Look at this. Oh, and he's repeating moves. And white is better, but Draken's the one that can't repeat. He's the one that needs to win. And knight g6 hitting the rook. Oh, f4 pawn drops. Hold on, folks. Hold on. Anything can still happen here. Rook c5. Can black avoid getting mated here? He can, but can he avoid the draw? Knight c3. He has to go king a1. And now, how do you mate this king? Oh, rook a5. Oh, no. Oh, this is all over. Bishop c6, and that's mate. Oh, but he had to do it. And Draken was just playing for the win there and gets himself mated. Going down, swinging. But that means that Serrana is now qualified for the 2023 Speed Chess Championship. Congrats to him. Draken will have another chance. He'll be going into the losers bracket, and he'll have another chance to qualify still. In the meantime, let's jump to the other games. Looks like Iturrizaga won his game against Sadhwani, knocking Sadhwani out of the competition. Let's see if I can find that game here. I think this was the last game in their match. Iturrizaga going for the e3 poison. Shout out to this opening. Great setup for white. And winning a key game against Sadhwani to win their match 3.5, 1.5. Quite a wild game. Looks like Sadhwani was actually doing quite well, but of course this is bullet chess, and you can win a pawn, you can win an exchange, piece, rook, queen, 2 queens, but the game is not over until it's over. And looks like Iturrizaga found a way to get the queen sign moving, and then the b pawn ended up very strong. Ooh, f7 fell, takes here, and now 3 pawns is just too much in the position. Sadhwani had enough and decided to resign. So let's jump to the bracket. What that means is next, Hakobian will be playing Iturrizaga, and the winner of that match will be qualifying for the SCC. And folks, I got the format all mixed up. Draken is out. He is out. These are two separate brackets. So Serrana is advancing. Jacobian and Iturrizaga will be playing next. And on Draken, I'm getting word here, we'll be playing the winner of that match. Jacobian Iturrizaga. So in Draken, folks, he's still in. He's still got a shot. He's still got a chance. He's only lost the first match. He will still have a chance if he wins. Against the winner of Iturrizaga and Jacobian. All right, folks, those matches are coming up. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. The second qualifier from the 2023 Speed Chess Championship. See you all after the jump. Alrighty, folks, and we are back. The 2023 Speed Chess Championship, brought to you by chess.com and Coinbase. And we are about to watch the semifinal match in the losers bracket between Arm Hakobian and Eduardo Iturrizaga. In the meantime, Dmitry Andreikin waits in the wings as he'll face the winner of that match for the second qualifier spot into the SCC. Alexei Sarana has already qualified. He's into the main event. And now it comes down to either Hakobian, Iturrizaga, or Andreikin. One of them will be vying for that final spot. We've got action underway. Let's jump to the game. This is game one between Hakobian and Iturrizaga. We're back to the 5-1. So this is the tough thing about this format. You do the 5-1, you do the 3-1, then you get to the 1-1. Super stressful. Now back to the 5-1. You got to rein it in and start playing some slower blitz. So let's catch up, see what happened in this game. Now it's a little bit easier to follow. We've only got one match to watch. So we had Nimzo Indian, E3 variation, very, very classic from Aram, and it goes for an early A3, inviting black to give up the bishop for the knight and get this classic Nimzo dynamic where white has the two bishops, but a very weak structure on the queen side. So knight e2, c5, knight g3, white developing normally here, castles, d6, bishop b2, and e4, white using the big space advantage in the center. But now black strikes back, takes an e5. Typical operation here, knight a5, playing against that queen side. f4 was played, sacrificing the c4 pawn in order to get some play on the f-file. So queen e2, he could have taken on e5 as well, but fe5, maybe knight takes e4. So queen e2 first, bishop a6, fe5, de5, and now bishop takes e5. And what a wild position. Rook a4 in the air to skewer white's pieces. Evalbar hates this one. I guess there's maybe queen c2 as a possible response among other things. So bishop takes e5 on the board. Iturrizaga not clear how to proceed in this one. Another idea in the air is bishop takes f6 for white. If white is allowed to force gf6, knight comes to f5, that's just game over. That's just mate. Queen h5, rook f4. That'll be devastating. So Iturrizaga spending a ton of time in this first game. He has to figure out how to defend here. Very, very scary position for black. What to do? The knight moves, there's queen g4 ideas. Okay, bishop is hit. So knight d7 feels like a nice move, attacking the bishop. Now bishop drops back to b2. Yeah, I don't think any sacrifices were working there. Just king takes g7, and black should have enough. But bishop b2, knight c5, and ooh, now white has all kinds of moves in the position. Queen g4, knight f5. This g7 pawn is a huge target. Knight h5. Got to be something for white here. Queen g4 played, f6. Blunting the diagonal feels like a very logical move. Now knight h5. Well, threatening mate in one, always good. Queen d7, threatening to win the queen, also good. And there's no knight takes f6 because of rook takes. And white's queen is going to be hanging. So queen d7, nice find by Iturrizaga here. Very crafty defense. Hitting and protecting at the same time. Aram looking for a move here. I assume he's going to find one, but will it be the best move? Statistics say yes. These guys are usually pretty good at finding the best moves. But what to do? You don't really want to trade queens here as white. If you take, knight takes d7, and then white's e-pawn is going to be weak. Black feels very comfortable in this endgame. These pawns really just aren't going anywhere. So you want to keep the queens on, but How exactly is he going to do it? Spending a little bit of time. Is Jacobian maybe rook f5? But then the e-pawn hangs. You don't want to just give that one up. So he does trade, goes for this endgame. But it doesn't look like white has enough of the attack here. Rook e1. Yeah, just trying to hold on. Feels very comfortable for black. Still has this attack just hanging over white. What's going on? Rook c2, rook f2. Rook f2 probably is going to be the response there. But feels very nice for black. The second rook can come into c8. And I think white is doing well. So rook c2, the rooks come off. Now knight c5. Uh-oh, knight d3 check. That's a big move. White needs to avoid this one. But how exactly? Maybe king to g3, knight d3. Okay, king goes to f3. Still a very sharp position. Feels like actually all three results are very possible here, though. Should be very comfortable for black. Minimum, you can go knight d3 and even take this bishop if you want. I think black light squared bishop is a pretty strong piece. But you do have to be careful that these pawns don't just start running on you one day. So knight d3, rook b1. Of course, not rook e2, knight e5 check and winning the exchange. So rook e1, rook to c8. Yeah, Terezaga still, he's putting the pressure here in this first game. So bishop d4, rook c2. And black down to 20 seconds, but very, very comfortable position here. Yeah, I'm having a hard time playing this for white. It's tough. I mean, you can push your d-pawn. Black does have to be very careful that this d-pawn doesn't snake through, but the problem is the king is actually very close. So as soon as you go d6, black goes king f7 and can run to this pawn. So king e3, we're getting ourselves into a big time scramble now. a4. And yeah, Kobian, he's worse. He's worse, but he's trying. He's trying, but now rook a2, d6, the d-pawn tries to make a run for it, king e6, knight takes g7, gets back in with the knight, but at the cost of the d-pawn. And now the whole board is coming off, rook takes g2. Feels like things are kind of liquidating, but anything can still happen. 5 seconds for both players. Oh boy, these guys need to watch out. Black is now up a pawn, rook a2, going after another pawn. Can he take on a4? But rook h6 check. White's piece is looking very, very active. Knight d6, king g8. Oh, and he got himself mated. Oh no, he walked right into that one. Bishop e5, rook to d3. And Terezaga takes the first game with black. Huge, huge win as they get game 2 started. And oh man, not the first hung mate we've seen today, and probably not the last. But yeah, big score there for Terezaga in that first game. Was feeling drawish, but he finds a way to win. And now he's up a point in this match. It's first to 3.5 to advance to the next stage, where an angry Dmitry Andreikin is waiting to take his revenge on whoever emerges from this one. And we're back to the Catalan for Terezaga. Very, very nice situation. He just won that first game. Now he gets white in the second game. And so far, it doesn't feel like he has anything special here. But now knight e5. Takes knight d5. Black blocks the diagonal. Real quick moment there. If white had played bishop takes a8, winning the rook, probably black goes queen takes d4, grabs another pawn, and has 2 pawns for the exchange and a lot of compensation. So Turazaga wanted no part of that, just de, knight to d5. And yeah, white can win back this pawn on c4, but in the meantime, black develops the bishop to b7. Should stand okay there, although a little bit of pressure here for white. Queen c8 maybe to unpin off of the d file, and then move this knight, trade off the bishops. Yeah, feels okay here for black, but a little bit of pressure. And he's not moving. Jacobian's thinking about something here. Queen c8 feels very logical. Maybe he was wondering about throwing in knight b4. Maybe knight b4 was a possibility there. But he does end up going queen c8. Now bishop d2. White continuing to develop. And for black, it's all about being able to connect the rooks. For the moment, it still feels like black is under a bit of pressure. And now h4. Yeah, h4, just typical. You just throw this move out. You know, you don't know what it's going to happen or where it's going, but you just throw it out in these kinds of positions. And yeah, usually it makes sense. Okay, well, a5. Both sides really taking their time here. And I don't know if we're going to see e4 here from white, because then that's just going to invite knight b4. Instead, we see queen e4. Wow, very bold move. Very tough move to play, walking into all these discoveries. But of course, the bishop is hanging, so there's no move. And the other idea is that white wants to, looks like, transfer the queen to the king side. Very strong move, queen e4. Would not have been an obvious choice for me, but yeah, now the queen gets to g4 and white can start building up on the king side. Bishop e4, h5, king g2, rook h1, h6. A lot of ideas here for white. A lot of ideas. So black here needs to spend some time to figure out how exactly to defend. Okay, queen e8. The queen shifts over to this side. But now h5, bishop e4, king g2. Feels like white's position almost plays itself. Rook a d8. Definitely some attacking potential here for white, but how exactly to build up? Bishop e4 feels like the first step. We do have to watch out for maybe some f5 stuff. No, f5 doesn't seem to be working, because takes, and this one is a target, so there's not going to be knight takes because of queen takes e6 check, and then the bishop on g7 hangs. So rook d8. White spending their time here. Again, you could go e4, but then knight b4. And it's not really clear what white has achieved other than weakening a lot of the d file. So Turazaga really going down. Okay, finally plays bishop e4 after a minute. Think, clearly calculating some stuff there. But yeah, white continues the build-up. King h8. Very reasonable defensive move. Now what will we see? Maybe king g2. h6 is a possibility. h6 allows g6. Then black kind of closes things down. So you're not sure you want to play that one. Another idea is to go bishop c2 and queen e4. And try to do a repeat of game one. Oh, but with king h8, f5 could be a trick now, because takes, knight takes, and there's no queen takes e6 with check. So yeah, white needs to watch out for f5 here. That's a very serious move. And Turazaga is not playing. Yeah, he's not moving because he's not sure what to do. King g2, f5 would be devastating. So one needs to be very careful. Yep, there it is. An eval bar, ooh, just shoots all the way down. So yeah, king h8. Very nice move by Jacobian. H6. Okay, now F5 is met with queen takes G7 mate, so H6, G6. F5 still in the position, but knight takes is the problem for white. So what to do? If you back up on this diagonal, then you're leaving behind the main diagonal. If you go back to G2, well, then you just feel silly. You played bishop E4. So what to do? The Terzaga going down to under a minute. And rook C1. He's not afraid of F5. What's he got on F5? I think now on F5 he's got takes, bishop C3. Oh, nice find. Very crafty. And then takes, you can take with the queen. And white has a lot of nice play on this diagonal. Very tricky. So rook DC1. And black is all built up here, but what to do? Where's the counterplay coming from? Still feels like black has to sit and wait a bit. And what to play? He's got bishop b4, but then that allows bishop g5. You can move the knight, maybe knight to b4, but then you just lose the piece on b7, so that's probably not great. Maybe just a very calm prophylactic move like bishop a8, defending your bishop, and then preparing knight to b4. Okay, eval bar didn't love that. I'll take it back, no problem. Not super easy to find a move here for black without hanging something. That's kind of the thing. But lots of time for Arm still to figure it out. In the meantime, maybe white thinks about bishop c3 at some point. Nah, probably not. Bishop c3, I think black snags that one off. Okay, f5 played. Going for this bishop c3, rook d4. Wow, sacrificing the exchange. And now bishop takes g6. Holy smokes. What are these complications? But now I think black is going to have at least two pieces for the rook. And very nice situation. Wow, what a shot. Bishop takes g6, hitting the queen and hitting the rook. Rook takes g4. We get this endgame. Now looking pretty nice for black here. A good chance for Jacobian to try and come back in this match. "35 seconds for white. Can he find a way to play it? It's hard. Black's pieces are very good. Bishop d5, rook g6, rook h6, rook h1. Checkmate. Bishop c5. Ooh, watch out for rook takes g3. If you go e3, you're weakening all the light squares. Terzaga needs to make a move. Okay, e3. Now maybe bishop f3, rook g6. Bishop f3, there's 95 though. So rook g5, love this move. Love this move. Covering e5 square, getting ready for rook h5. Now maybe bishop f3. Plant the bishop in. Start tightening the noose around white's king. Maybe bishop e4. Takes, knight d6. And oh, rook c5. Ooh, nice trick, but it's not going to work. Black now has the extra piece. It should be enough to win for Aram. This bishop on f3 is very strong now. e5, e4. Oh, and that's it. He wins on time. Oh, because rook takes c5, rook d6 would have been absolutely devastating. So needed to play king d2 here. Then, okay, game continues, but black should have excellent winning chances. So Jacobian, great job bouncing back in game 2. So they're 1-1. They're going to be starting their next game shortly. And there we have it. Now we're off to the 3-1 games. So they're going to play 2 games of 3+1. We're back to the same opening as game 1 that ended in a pretty brutal checkmate for Jacobian's king in the endgame. He's going to try to avoid a similar fate here. And yeah, this very much looks like a repeat of their last game. White again getting e4. This time, of course, they only got 3 minutes on the clock. And in the previous game, when white played e4, black went takes, e5, d5, knight a5. So let's see if Iturrizaga opts for a similar play here. No, it goes bishop a6. Targeting the c4 pawn. It's another plan in this position. Knight comes to a5. Yeah, white needs to figure out what to do. f4, e5 is a typical plan, but the c4 pawn is going to hang very, very quickly after knight a5. So not a lot of time for white here. f4, knight a5, e5. Okay, goes rook c1, defending the c pawn in advance in case of cd4 and cd4. But now c pawn needs to be defended, so queen e2. He's got enough coverage on this one for now. So how is black going to up the pressure here? Because if black doesn't get any further threats, well then white's going f4, e5, f5, king h1, f6, and it's just going to be a straight checkmate. So Iturrizaga needs to kind of show his cards here, how he's going to continue. Another plan is queen d7, queen a4. This might be possible to just go all in on the queen side, go after the c pawn. But yeah, easier said than done. Again, white's playing f4 and e5. So e5, not on my watch, says Iturrizaga. Now f4. Takes, and white is really trying hard to break through on the king side here. e5 coming up, knight f5 as well. Very, very dangerous position. Bishop takes d4, but it is double-edged because, again, black always has this play against the c pawn. Now black has certain squares in the position as well, like knight b7, knight to c5. So really not easy here. And Jacobian's thinking about it because he has a couple moves. He also had e5 there, knight f5. So he decides to just take on d4. Oh, but knight b3. Oh, this was not intended. Now he has to give up the dark squared bishop. That's not what white wants at all. Oh, he totally missed this one. Okay, he sacks the exchange to keep the attacking chances alive. Very interesting. Is he going to get enough with the dark squared bishop? I mean, it's hard to say. Black's rooks look very, very nice here. Rook on the c file, rook on the e file, but e5. All right, let's see what happens here. g6, yeah, white has no threat. No threat, the queen on e2 is hanging. So just g6, stopping the knight from coming into f5. Wow, amazing move. Showing no fear against this bishop as well. So rook d1. White doesn't really have the crushing attack he's looking for, so he's just trying to kind of slowly build up and eventually find his chance. h3. Yeah, just calmly improving the position. Just pretending like he's not down in exchange, but black takes on e5, takes knight d7. And can white get enough here for the exchange? Rook e1. Bishop takes c4, black taking on c4, and where's white's attack coming from? Position seems to be collapsing. I think Iturrizaga is just winning this one. If takes, queen comes in, and the more pieces that come off, the more black is just winning with extra exchange. So knight e4, looking desperately for some jumps. Knight e6, knight f6, knight d6, but is it going to be enough? Now don't take on e5. There's going to be knight f6 check. Okay, takes, and rook e6. Just playing for the full blockade. Knight g5. Is black going to give back the exchange, or maybe slide the rook over to c6? I'm not sure. You could see an argument for something like queen c6 or knight c5. How about knight c5? Okay, just rook e6, just giving back the exchange, but keeping the total blockade on the light squares. And black is still a pawn up, and white's bishop on b2 is now kind of a problem piece because the bishop is just hitting into its own soldier there. So rook d1 takes on e5. Feels like this gives white a chance though. Queen d8 check. Queen e4. Okay, it's 2 pawns up for black, so if he can survive this pressure, then he's just 2 pawns up and winning. So Hakobian going all in here. Rook d8, looking for some checks and some play. He's got rook d8, bishop c1, so queen g5. Black is defending, covering the c1 square. Holy smokes. Who's better and why? Feels like black's king is safe, and black is still 2 pawns up and is looking for some counterplay. Now f5. Oh, queen b4, knight f3 check. Oh, this has to be mate. Iturrizaga going for the kill. Knight d4, queen f4 check. Where's the win? Where's the win? Knight f3. Oh, beautiful, beautiful finish. And the pieces are coming in, and it's not over yet. White with seconds. Queen f2. Iturrizaga blasting moves out. But what to do? h7 is hanging. King g1, knight to g5. Oh, he finds a way to defend. Black completely winning. Oh, and he hangs the bishop. And that's it. That's it. Harm scrambling, but it's not going to happen. Oh, knight f3. And Iturrizaga taking the 3rd game and the lead in their match 2-1. Insane finish there. Just furious with the pieces there. But he is now leading this match. It's first to 3.5. So this is a big lead now for Iturrizaga. Gets white in this next game, and it's back to the Catalan. Now, after this game, we are going to be getting 2 games of 1+1. So it's not going to be over in these 3-minute games. And a similar opening to what we saw earlier. White brings the knight to c4. Both players taking a second to catch their breath after that last time scramble. But they're right back into it. And this is one of the challenge between these events. You often have very little time to recover after a super tense game. And Hakobian here needs to keep his cool, make sure he doesn't drift into a worse position because he's down a point. He needs to at least draw this one if he wants to come back and have a chance to not be down more than a point going into the bullet portion. But very, very impressive performance there by Iturrizaga in the bullet scramble there. Now c5 played, In terms of the position, it feels like black is doing okay. Generally, once you get this key break c5, it feels like black should be doing fine by challenging white's center. A couple pieces have already been traded off. Queen can come to b7. Yeah, it feels like white has very little here. And whoa, folks. Strategic draw by agreement. Black offered after c5. I guess seems like Hakobian offered the draw, I would think. Accepted. Iturrizaga, he's a point ahead, but now next game is going to have to play black, and they're going into the bullet portion. So very interesting decision there for both players. Yeah, clearly showing some fatigue. The winner is still going to have to play on Draken in order to qualify for the SCC. So it is kind of in both players' interest to save as much energy as they can. But yeah, very risky decision by Aram, who is now going to have to make up a full point in these last 2 bullet games. So bishop d6, Eduardo Iturrizaga so far showed that he's pretty much a monster in these scrambles. So this is going to be an uphill battle, but Aram does have the white pieces here. Open Sicilian, very sharp position. So I can see things going very wrong here for black and very, very right for white. f4, the pawns are advancing, bishop e3. Very typical setup here for white. King h1 could follow at some point, and then white's going to be looking to advance these pawns and play for the attack. I mean, they've only got a minute, so not a lot of time to do the typical, maneuvering that you see the grandmasters always do, or they take 3 hours to, shift a rook from one file to another. No, these guys, they got to play fast. They gotta make moves quick. Now f5, e5 on the board. b4, white fighting for the dark squares. Black also looking to challenge white on those dark squares. And rook to c2. And bishop takes g2. Iturrizaga with the puzzle rush. Oh, and that could be the match, folks. If this works out, this is a huge development. The point is that the bishop on e3 was hanging, so he had no time to take. Hakobian trying to bail out into this endgame where he's down a pawn, but Iturrizaga says, no endgame for you. Your king is open. We're keeping queens on the board, my friend. And good luck. This game is about to get wild and crazy once again. Rook to g1. Watch out for mate. He sees it. These guys are good. Rook takes. Got to take with the queen. He sees it. Again, these guys are really good. Knight d4. Queen c4. Queen d2. Black here definitely with the upper hand, but only 15 seconds on the clock. Queen g3. Another mate. g6. But the f4 pawn falls. Black can get the queens off. This is huge for Iturrizaga as long as he can avoid getting mated. And he picks up the rook with knight e2 check and wins the match. 3.5, 1.5. That's it for this one. Knocking Hakobian out of the loser's bracket here. And that means, folks, that coming up next, Iturrizaga will be playing on Draken for the second qualifier spot in this event. Alexei Sarana has already punched his ticket to the 2023 Speed Chess Championship, and now it's going to come down to Draken versus Iturrizaga for that second qualification spot. Folks, we're going to take a very short break before coming back with that final match. Stay tuned for that one on Draken and Iturrizaga. It's going to be an absolute barn burner, and we'll be right back in a few minutes. The two veterans of the online chess scene, Dmitry Andreikin and Eduardo Iturrizaga, are about to get started with the final match and the losers bracket here in the second qualifier for the 2023 Speed Chess Championship, brought to you by chess.com and Coinbase. They are about to get their match started, and we are live with the first game getting underway here. Once again, same format we've been using all day. 2 games of 5-1, slow blitz, we call it, followed by 2 games of 3+1, let's say, real blitz, and then 2 games of 1+1, the bullet portion. So 1 spot on the line to qualify for the 2023 Speed Chess Championship comes down to this match here between these two. Andreikin so far had a great day, lost that match to Serrana 4-1. Meanwhile, Eduardo Iturrizaga started off in the losers bracket, has won all of his matches so far. Probably feeling pretty good, but is going to have to get through a frustrated Dmitry Andreikin if he wants to make it to the Speed Chess Championship. Now, who's the favorite here? You know, folks, I don't know. Dmitry Andreikin is rated 30-30, and Iturrizaga is rated 30-28. So, you know, are we really going to give a 2-point rating edge to Andreikin? I guess we have to. You know, that's the only way to to judge these things. And look at this wild opening position. We got an early a3 b4, inviting black to capture this pawn, as this would allow tactics such as knight takes e5, followed by queen a4 check, and then eventually taking this bishop on b4. So black ignored this one, f6 played, but now b5 taking space, rook b1, bishop e7. And yeah, very tricky structure here where black has some nice space in the center. Notice how white has no pawn pushes in the center whatsoever. But in the meantime, white's got the bishop on the long diagonal. You know, e3 played, forcing this knight off of d4. And this position is definitely going to be opening up in the future with some kind of timely d4 break. Bit of a time advantage for Andreikin as he decides what to do. There is queen b3 check, but then you just walk right into bishop e6 tempo, which doesn't look super fun. So how to continue here? Andreikin taking his time, eventually finds a4, just advancing the queen side pawns. a5 might be coming, bishop a3 as well. Rook to b8 by Iturrizaga, very flexible move, getting the rook off of the diagonal so he can push b6 and develop his business there. Okay, rook to e1. Kind of a mysterious rook move, not gonna lie. I think it's preparing d4, and then one day, if the e-file opens up, then the rook will certainly have something to say. And knight d6, this definitely allows white to break with this one if he wants to, and open up the position. Definitely feels like a tempting move. For white to open everything up, but Andreikin definitely pausing, and yeah, finally plays it. And now we'll see how Iturrizaga reacts. He can take once, he can push e4, he does decide to trade off the c pawn, and then he pushes e4. And now what happens if white takes? I think black can come out with bishop f5 and possibly win the exchange. Evalbar seems to think white is totally okay with this though. Which is interesting. I wonder what the continuation would be. But yeah, for Andreikin, it's very hard to take this one without having an answer to bishop f5. So my guess is he might drop back, or we'll see. Maybe he'll go for the exchange sack. That would be pretty interesting. Take. Bishop f5 and then knight h4. He does take. And let's see what we get. Yeah, bishop f5, I think knight h4. Oh, called it. And then you get the light squares. Queen comes to h5. Oh, yeah. Beautiful exchange sack for Andrejkin. Beautiful. All the pieces into the action here. And how does black deal with this? Queen h5 coming. If h6, you're going to have bishop takes h6. Maybe queen e8 right now. But then, of course, white will have other ideas as well. g6. Ooh, ugly move. But what to do? You have to try to defend. Andrejkin must sense he has a chance here. d5, bishop b2. Lots of moves appearing for white in the position. Maybe you can even sack on g6. Followed by queen h5. That would look very scary. Nah, probably not. Take, and then there's always king g7 there and rook h8. King g7. Yeah, no, I don't think it's working. But Andrejkin, he's tanking a bit here because he knows his position has a lot of options. Bishop h6 also quite possible. Very, very ambitious position for white. Okay, queen g4, inviting the f5, but of course white can just take this one. So he's got enough covering, and he's now threatening just a vicious sacrifice on g6, followed by the mate on h7. So what to do for black? Maybe queen e8 again, you can defend, but yeah, you run into bishop h6, bishop f4 as well. Very, very tough situation for Iturrizaga here in this first game. Okay, rook f7. He's just trying to hold on as best as he can. Seems too early for white to sack, but you can keep building up the position. Bishop h6, bishop b2. A lot of moves here for white to consider. And this d-pawn is kind of hanging in the position. Earlier, black couldn't have taken it because of knight takes g6, where white is just having the mate. But after rook f7, knight g6, no longer such a devastating threat. So bishop h6 played. Now can black think about going queen takes d4? Be very scary. You got moves like rook to d1. Oh, and now knight takes g6 is renewed as a threat. So probably this one is again not working. Knight takes g6. And black is getting themselves mated here. Takes and too many mates in the position. So f5. Whoa, f5 allowing knight takes. But I guess Iturrizaga just couldn't find anything better. He's a very, very crafty defender. Queen to d7 now. Pinning this knight. But it's 2 pawns for the exchange now. So white actually has a lot of material. And he can even consider going for the endgame with something like knight to e3. I still think white would be doing a lot better. Watch out for other ideas. Bishop c2, bishop b3, switching to this diagonal. He just pulls back bishop f4. Oh, love this move. Threatening knight h6 check. Winning material, winning the queen and the rook. Knight on c7 also hanging. How does black defend here? Bishop f8, yeah, only move. Bishop f8 maybe keeping the queen defended. But eval bar thinks white is totally winning. Oh, rook c1. Oh, this is a problem. This is a problem. Knight on c7. Knight on c7 here is hanging. Everything in black's position is under attack. Knight on f5 is super sturdy. All right, rook c8. Where's the knockout here for white? It takes on b7. If queen takes f5, there's bishop takes c8 with the x-ray defense. So Andrejkin definitely looks to be winning his exchange back. He now has 3 pawns for the exchange. Folks, he is angry. He seems straight up angry. He is dominating the game right now. Rook e8. How to continue here for Dmitry? He's got to find something. 25 seconds. Knight on f5 now is kind of hanging. What happens on rook c7? Is black just taking on f5? He does take on c7. We're going to find out. Queen f5. And yeah, now white just goes for the endgame. Bishop e5, bishop d5. This looks completely losing for black. 3 pawns for the exchange for white, so it should just be enough on the material side. Rook c8, yeah, keeping the rooks on the board. But 10 seconds for Andraken to convert this. Not a lot of time left. He's going to have to play very, very fast and very, very accurate to win this one. But d5, the position is playing itself. White has 2 bishops. Everything is defended. The pawn is advancing. d6, d7, d8. Pass pawn's meant to be pushed. g5, Iturrizaga looking for any last counterplay. Gives back the exchange, but now White's going to give a check and collect on a7. Still some last hope for black. Bishop d4 hitting f2. Oh, but it's 4 extra pawns for white. That's just way too much. And he can win every which way. All right, black does get 1 pawn. But bishop g2, what a defense. What a defense by Andraken. A little bit awkward. But he's getting everything moving. Now b6 you can't take because rook c6 and wins the bishop. And Andraken collects the first game in this finals match. They're off already to game 2. Iturrizaga really needs to bounce back here with a win. Otherwise, he's going to have a very hard time in this match. And Iturrizaga has played an extra match already, right? So this is very, very hard for him. He, I'm sure, is exhausted. But yeah, he's going to have to give it everything he has to come back in this game. And we're back to the Catalan. We've seen a lot of Catalans today. Definitely some kind of soft meta for this qualifier. Lots and lots of Catalans. And this is what we call a closed Catalan, where black hasn't really done anything in the center, hasn't taken on c4. And now b5, Andraken going for some kind of ultra-closed Catalan here. b5, c5, just trying to lock everything up. This is going to be a bit awkward for the light-scored bishop here, but if black can get queen c7 and e5 in, then that's going to be kind of the plan. Now b4, rook e1, very fast, anticipating the bishop coming out to a6, where it now belongs. And we'll see if Iturrizaga also plays e4. He does. Yeah, typical break for white in the center. And Andraken says just go ahead, just take all the space. I don't care. And wow, very, very bold decision by black here to allow the structure. White now has like a souped up King's Indian attack. He's got all the pieces here on the board, pushing on the queen side. Folks, this is the last match. The winner of this match qualifying for the Speed Chess Championship. Alexei Serrano is already in. Yu Yang-yi, Vida Gujrati, they're already in. And one more player is going to join them out of these two. f5 played. Andraken no longer wanting to wait for white to completely build up, so he decides to strike back. Takes, bishop f4. And I'm liking this for white. This e-pawn is backwards. White has a very nice e5 square. Excellent chance for Iturrizaga to bounce back. He's also got an extra minute and 20 seconds on the clock. Oh, knight h2, knight g4, a third piece looking to dominate this e5 square. But first, we got to watch out for the d-pawn. So rook a d1 played. Knight e5 was maybe another. No, then d4 would have hung itself. So queen e7. Now white has all kinds of ideas. Bishop h3, knight to g4. He's going to be looking to put pieces on this e5 square, but a lot of pressure on Iturrizaga to win this second game. Oh, bishop f1. Very nice switch over, but queen h5 hits the knight on g4. He comes back, he's like, you know, you're right. Bishop needed to be on h3. You're right. When you're right, says Iturrizaga. And now, how to continue? This clump of pieces for white, very annoying. Possible threat of knight takes f6 check, followed by bishop takes e6 in the position. And bishop takes d4 on Draken, looking for the complications. He wants all of the smoke in the position. How's this going to work? After knight takes d4, is it some kind of e5? What is the follow-up? Takes on d4. Very perplexing sacrifice. Knight takes d4, I guess, is met with this one. Rook takes, and yeah, I guess some e5 on Draken. Really going deep here with this one. And how does Ituruzaga deal with this? He can also consider rook takes d4. But then you give the exchange, and again, yeah, e5 might be the problem. Is there another move? Evalbar is saying you don't take either way. Don't take either way on d4. But then what to play here for white? Knight g5 maybe? Ooh, tough position. Tough position. He was not expecting to just allow black to take on d4. And yeah, I feel like you gotta recapture here. You just can't let black take your stuff like that. No, brutal position. Man, what a find by Draken. Bishop takes d4. Evalbar is saying it's not great, but yeah, good luck. Good luck proving why. Good luck. Go ahead. Go ahead, be my guest, says Draken. Show me what you got. Yeah, this e5 is a huge move that's coming. What can white do here? What can white do? He can of course take, but then black is trading and pushing e5. So Ituruzaga needs to find a really good move here. He's burning a ton of time. Yeah, maybe knight to e5. Just put your horse on this square anyway. And he does it. Knight ge5. Bravo. Quick reminder to the players, you should not be listening to the official commentary while you are playing. It's not even helpful. I mean, it's not even helpful for one. But anyway, knight ge5. Fantastic find by Ituruzaga. He's got this g4 actually in the position. And yeah, black needs to be pretty precise here. Man, what a find. He really dug deep. 2.5 minutes on that think. Comes up with the best move. Now, Draken has to trade some pieces here. But is white going to get enough for the pawn? I mean, black did snag a pawn on d4. So knight takes e5. And oh, he sacrifices the exchange. Oh, look at this. It's Ituruzaga. He's just going for it. Knight takes, he wants knight takes e5 and then g4. But queen takes f3. Did he realize his knight was hanging? He could have just taken here, and his position looks very nice. Then knight e5, rook e5. He's got tons of pressure and tons of play. But he goes for rook takes e5 and drops the knight on f3. And I don't think this was intentional, folks, because Ituruzaga is now thinking, takes on e6. Black can definitely consider taking, and then you'll have two pieces for the rook. And kind of a solid situation, yeah. And now maybe even d4. Ooh, it's still very double-edged. It's still very double-edged. He might have just blundered that knight, folks. I'm really not sure. It's hard to say. Just the pause after queen takes f3, it took him 20 seconds to play bishop takes e6. That makes me think that this was not Ituruzaga's plan. Oh, knight takes c5. Draken playing for tactics, but it might not work out for him. Now that the position is opening up, white's rooks are going to be very strong here. Apparently there was some move white missed. We're going to go past it. Takes. Now 1 minute for Draken. Of course, these players do not have a lot of time. They're not going to be playing computer perfect chess. They're just doing the best they can. And Andrejkin sacrifices the piece and knight d4. What a move. If rook takes, he's got rook e1, rook h1 mate. The dude is a genius. The dude is just a straight genius. Knight e2 check is now threatened, as well as the queen. And he sacrificed the exchange, but black has a ton of play in the position. He's completely winning according to the engine. Queen takes f2 now. f2 falls. He's got bishop c8 check. Takes on c5, and that's it. He just wins by resignation. Iturrizaga gives it up. The rook was just lost, and that's it. Extra piece for black. And Andrejkin takes a 2-0 lead in this match. They now move on to the 3-1 games, as Andrejkin plays English, and very, very tough situation for Iturrizaga. Obviously, he's down 0-2. First to 3.5 qualifies for the Speed Chess Championship. But what can you do, folks? You have to keep fighting. You have to take your chances and try to win these next 2 games. But now they're going to play 2 3-minute games, 3+1. If Andrejkin manages to score 1.5 out of 2, then that's it. He is going to be through. But otherwise, they'll be moving on to the bullet. So Iturrizaga needs to at least split these games 1-1 to stay in this match. But obviously, a win would go a long way for Iturrizaga to maintain his chances. Now, this was kind of a funky opening. We have kind of a symmetrical English, but then d3, b6. Black breaks the symmetry a bit. Bishop d2, bishop b7, e4, advancing in the center. And Andrejkin taking a lot of space here. Pretty closed position. I think black is actually totally fine here, but of course, the play is very much going to develop in the middle of the game. And now b5. Interesting pawn sacrifice. What happens if takes? Knight takes b5. Then I think bishop a6 would be the reply, hitting the knight, hitting the pawn. And then on a4, black can just continue building up rook to b8 and probably eventually get the pawn back. So b5, Andrejkin responds actively. b4. Takes. Rook to b8. And okay, Iturrizaga just developing the forces. Now will we see b5? b5 feels very logical. But on b5, perhaps black takes and drops the knight into d4 without too many worries here. Now he goes knight a5 instead, blockading white's queenside. Now these pawns are stuck. Rook goes to a8. Yeah, still totally reasonable position here for both sides. Now, how to continue for white? He goes knight d5, opening up the bishop, also coming in with the knight, giving black a chance to trade this one off, maybe go for the full blockade, but no, instead, Iturrizaga just e6, gently escorting the knight out of the premises of the center. And yeah, Andrejkin's going to have to drop back. Not sure if this is exactly what he was hoping for with his knight d5 jump. Knight goes to b6. Oh, black's position looking very, very fresh right now. Knight comes to c4. All the pieces getting into the game. Okay, bishop g5, hitting the queen. Definitely have to deal with that one. Queen to c7, rook a1. Andrejkin so far doing really well in this match, up 2-0, but he's down 40 seconds on the clock in this game. And all it takes is 1 win, 2 wins, and all of a sudden the match is drawn. So rook a5, loving the blockade here. Yep, we're going to get the second rook over on a8. And looks like black's position is just picture perfect. But still, that's one thing. You still have to break through and win the game. G5, wow. Going for it all. Bishop dropping back to c1. Gotta give credit to Andrejkin here. He's defending his position very, very well. Somehow he got outplayed, and Black's position just looks beautiful with 2 bishops, but still, Iturrizaga is going to have to find a way to convert this one. Knight coming back to c4. Bishop d2. How to proceed for Black? Finally pushes for it with d5. Now both sides have 2 connected passers in the position, but White's pawns are totally stuck. Black's pawns are alive, but also possibly targets. And Black's king, remember this g5 move, is not exactly super safe here. So queen f5, maybe White's going for bishop f1, bishop d3. And Iturrizaga down to 35 seconds. Uh-oh. Yeah, he didn't quite manage this properly. Now White has a lot of counterplay in this position. Look out for h4 ideas. The king side is open. Oh, knight takes d5. The rook on a5 is hanging. Andrejkin, he's looking to win this match here and now. Is this going to be enough? Remember, if Black takes on a5, there's going to be rook e8 check in the position. And that's scary. That's scary. So what to do? Iturrizaga down to 10 seconds. He has to take this knight. Now Andrejkin's going to take on a5. Can come in with rook e8 check or rook d1. Oh, maybe the idea is just rook d1. Just win the piece on d5, go up in exchange. Or rook d2. A lot of moves for Andrejkin, 30 seconds. He's calculating. He's calculating furiously. He doesn't want to give Black a chance to get out. Maybe queen e6. One wrong move and you could lose this as White. So he gives rook e8 check, forcing bishop f8, and now rook d2. The second rook comes in for the kill. And how do you defend this piece? Knight e7. The last chance. The queen on f5 is hanging. What can White do here? Takes and rook d8? Bishop on b7 also hanging. Everything hanging in the position. Andrejkin just needs to find one way to win the game. He is going to emerge with an extra exchange, and this b-pawn should be enough to finish things off. Let's see if he can manage. Iturrizaga, though, defending absolutely brilliantly here. He's managed to still keep himself in the game, but 3 seconds, and this b-pawn is so strong. The knight is so far. Will he have enough time to stop it? b7, rook a8, and White wins, but he's got knight e3 check in the position. Watch out. Knight e3 was a huge threat. Iturrizaga still looking for every chance, but oh, he's blundered into the pin, and that's game over. Clutch move by Andrejkin there, rook a3, stopping the mating idea of knight e3 and killing all of Black's counterplay. And just like that, Andrejkin takes a 3-0 lead in the match. He just needs 1/2 point out of these next 3 games to convert it. Iturrizaga, simply put, is going to have to win every single game from here to tie the match. And while that is less likely than most things, crazier things have happened in chess. So he is going to go all out here. And how do you win 3 games in a row? Well, it starts with the first game. First, you got to win the first game. Take it 1 game at a time. Maybe you win the second game, and then, hey, it's 2-3. You won 2 games in a row. The momentum's all on your side. You can win that 3rd game as well. But first, he has to win this game to at least take it to the bullet, where he can try and bounce back. Anything, of course, can happen in the 1-1. And in the meantime, I mean, look, his position here is not bad. But, of course, yeah, mentally, that's going to be the hardest thing for Iturrizaga, making sure he's not thinking about these previous games where he's had his chances. So knight b4 now, looking for knight c6. Black is going to have a couple moves here. Queen b6, queen a5, a lot of these moves kind of deal with the threat. Though queen a5 should be said, you always got to watch out for knight c6 anyway, where you have this typical in-between move tactic with knight takes e7 check, winning a pawn followed by recapturing the queen. So rook c8 played instead, knight c6 and queen e8. A bit passive here for Andreykin, but he seems to be okay with what he's doing. But yeah, gotta like Terzaga's chances here with the strong knight on c6 kind of dominating the queen side. He just played b3, looking to eventually go a4, get that a pawn moving, or just to win this b pawn. In the meantime, knight b8 posing a question to that knight on c6. Do you go back with knight d4, knight b4, whoops, or do you just try to reinforce this knight somehow on c6? So far, it feels like Andreykin, has been able to pretty much just get his way out of everything. He's been in trouble in these positions, but somehow he manages to squeeze out. But now knight a7, nice move, going after this b pawn. And queen a5. Beautiful play by Terezaga here. I love what he's doing. It feels like white's pieces are just dominating the queen side. And how is Andreykin going to defend this? 1 minute and 20 seconds for him on the clock. Okay, he goes bishop to g4. Nice advantage for Terezaga. He's got time on the clock as well. Question is what to do. Goes e4. Taking some space but blocking his bishop at the same time. I'm not sure about this one. But Andreykin, what to do? Okay, bishop e2. The bishop slides in to white's camp. Notice black can't go rook c8. This square is covered by the knight on a7. And but only way to defend this pawn on b5, it seems, with bishop e2. And now what can white do? Of course, the pawn was hanging. Can you... Now f3 feels very weakening. Oh, f3 would be a huge blunder because of bishop d4 and the knight on a7 hanging. So don't play f3. Rook c2 on the board. Where's this bishop going? Maybe bishop to d3, rook d2. Feels like black's bishop here is on the verge of getting caught. Terezaga playing a very nice game here. And bishop d4 with the counterattack. Maybe was the only reasonable defense by Andreykin. And now if white wants, he can trade pieces here and take on e2. What else? Knight on a7 doesn't really have a lot of options here, right? What's he thinking about? Bishop e3? Bishop h6. Wow. Sometimes these players, they just find moves and I'm like, whoa, I wasn't even looking at that. Crazy. Crazy. Rook c7 also in the position. Fantastic find by Terezaga. He's got 1 minute to Andreykin's 30 seconds. And he could be on the verge of winning his first game in this match, which would be huge for his chances. Now queen d8, rook c8. Does white have anything here? Where's the tactics? Is bishop h3 a move? Can you go bishop h3? Then black just blocks. Terezaga, he's looking for it. 40 seconds. Has to be something here for white. He plays bishop h3, but now e6. Then maybe rook back to c7. Oh, where's the win? Where's the win? 10 seconds for Andrejkin. Maybe queen c7. Oh, what a move. He could go queen c7 here and go for the mate. Oh, that would be tricky. Evalbar doesn't like it, but that would be so fun. Rook c8, queen d7. He can't afford a draw here. He trades and goes queen d2. Picks up the bishop on e2. And white has emerged with an extra pawn. Must have had something better there, but not enough time to find it. Rarely isn't. Now bishop f1. Terezaga looking to just convert this with the two bishops. And there's no extra pawn, actually, no extra pawn. Andrejkin managed to escape again, unscathed from that incredibly difficult looking situation, but he's actually totally fine now. Now a4, holy smokes. Offering the chance to take, but then walking into b4. This would have been crazy. No idea what's going on here. I think a2 might have been okay. Who knows? But they're down to seconds, folks. Knight f6, bishop e3. Knight takes e4. They're just barely getting moves off in time. Terezaga looking to win with the two bishops. He trades one off, queen c4 check, a5. The pawn is pushing. 1 second for Andrejkin. He's just barely getting it off in time as both sides missing resources. And Andrejkin has managed to get it into this equal queen endgame. Folks, he just needs a draw to win this match and qualify. And he might be able to do it. Oh, king f6. He's eyeing the b3 pawn. And that's it. Black is very safe here. He just needs to not blunder the queen. And he can... he should be able to hold it. Now b3. White has won a pawn. It doesn't matter, though. This b pawn is just way too strong. The experienced Andrejkin, he knows this b pawn is going to create enough counterplay that white is just not able to do anything other than give a lot of checks. And this is just dead drawn. Just no chance here for white. And that's it. The game is drawn. The match is over. And Andrejkin wins the losers bracket, qualifies himself to the Speed Chess Championship. Incredible performance here. Fantastic final match against Terezaga. I just want to go back. I think Terezaga had a chance. I saw it just briefly here. Evalbar pointing out bishop g5 check would have won the game for white. That's so hard to spot, though, with 3 seconds on the clock. He really gave it his all, but it was not enough to take out Andrejkin, who just defended like an absolute lion in this final match. And folks, that's going to do it. Let's check out the bracket here once again from today's matches. So we got Alexei Sarana. He won back-to-back matches against both these players, actually, Terezaga and Andrejkin, to qualify himself to the Speed Chess Championship. And after losing that initial match, Terezaga clawed his way back. He defeated Sadwani. He defeated Aram Hakobian, but it wasn't enough to get through Dmitry Andrejkin, who also punches his ticket to the biggest online speed chess tournament of the year, the 2023 Speed Chess Championship. Folks, what a day. What a day. Those were some serious matches, some insane play there by all the players. Andrejkin, Terezaga, Sarana, just some amazing chess. Congrats to Sarana and Andrejkin for qualifying. They join Yu Yang and Vidit Gujrathi, who have also qualified from the first qualifier in this event that took place Monday and Tuesday of this week. So they'll be joining Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, already slated to play in the Speed Chess Championship. Gukesh as well, who won the junior SEC. And folks, that's going to do it for this show. Thanks for sticking around. This was Kostya. I usually stream on the Dojo, Chess Dojo Live on Twitch, Chess Dojo on YouTube. This was a lot of fun, folks. I feel like it went by really, really fast, but thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sticking around. I'll probably stream a bit on Dojo in just a bit there, so maybe I'll see some of you folks after a bit of a break. But hey, that's going to do it for the 2023 Speed Chess Championship qualifier number 2. I think that's it for the qualifiers. Coming up next big event on the stream is going to be taking place Wednesday. Champions Chess Tour continues, the Julius Baer Generation Cup, featuring Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, Alireza Firouzja, and all kinds of other superstar players. That's coming up Wednesday, August 30th. And of course, the Speed Chess Championship will be returning later this year with the main event. All right, folks, this was a lot of fun. I'm taking off. Maybe I'll see some of you over at Dojo. And until next time, have a good one. Have a great rest of your day. And hope the chess goes as well for you as it did for some of these players. See you all next time. Have a good one.